for the final part. And that was, I didn't go through all the lore. I was going to return to the house, and my friend told me that there was something I missed in Svartalheim near a certain area, so I'll do the last one first, and then we'll go through and go to the house, and then we'll read all the lore. So Svartalheim. It's supposed to be somewhere down here, I think. Was it Svartalheim? Yeah, I think it's supposed to be over here somewhere, in between here. Excuse me. This has gotten worse. Doing therapy appointments like this kind of sucks. Let's see. Okay. Where's the bullet? He said I'm looking for a statue. All three of my cats have joined. Get out of there. Is this the right side of the... Okay, yep. I don't see any statues. Oh, wait. There's fishies. Like a big old clownfish for a second there. I think that's a statue, right? Okay. He said there's something with the troll stuff, so... I don't need this relic anymore. Where's the...
That was quite a surprise.
What did you expect?
That's a fair point. Brother, that That dragon reacted to that relic just like those sleeping trolls did. How very peculiar.
Okay. And then the other one was to go back to the house. That's pretty cool. There's like a secret fight there.
Might you need your sword sharpened, milady?
Lunda, we could use you.
We found a stone dragon.
Did you now? And did you kill it?
Yes.
Of course you did.
I wish there was a way to just like upgrade everything. Okay. Let's see. Okay, back to the house. Here. Wolves here? Nope, they out in the wild. Oh, they're over there. Okay, sweet. Oh, there's something there.
What is it?
Mementos from Atreus' journey.
Oh,
What will you do with it?
Added to our own. His story is ours, and ours is his.
Too right, brother.
no, that's awesome. All right. Okay. Should we go through? Okay, we'll go through the bestiary first because that's easiest. I won't read them all, but I'll try to. Maybe, yeah, I'll read them out loud so that Cub can hear it. I understand you encountered your first Ironheart captain while alone in Vanaheim with Lady Freya. You'll never see these aggressive individuals without their Asgard forged weapon of choice, the scythe. Primitive weapon if you ask me, but they've made up for it with a rather annoying addition of Bifrost energy. Carrying the weight of such cumbersome weapon, they move a bit slower, but once in range of a blade, one might find themselves without a head a bit sooner than expected. Captains can use Bifrost magic to exchange their scythe for a spear capable of fast-moving charge attacks. Weapon switching this way is fast, so you'll have to keep watch as they can charge up their attacks. Captains can also use Bifrost to teleport themselves around the field, a particular tactical advantage to their otherwise slow-moving hammer-wielding variant. Hardly the Einhar Brute. Hardly a more fitting title than Brute, although perhaps applicable to more than one rank of Olden's soldiers. If memory serves, this title is granted to the newly incarnated Einhar Einharar completed some feat or other. Last I heard, it was accomplished by wearing the jaws of 10 enemies that had been ripped from their owners' heads with their bare hands. Thick armor makes a brute hard to interrupt. It'll take some more than ordinary attacks to stagger them. Brutes can throw a vicious haymaker, but disrupt it, and you'll have a tidy opening to counter. Warriors. So these are all the Einhar, so I'm not going to say that over again. One might look at his name and think it's a bit repetitive in nature. We already know they're warriors during their lifetimes, but I can assure you the distinction is quite keen. Just as one rises in rank in an army, so too the Einhar. Odin may have changed the qualifications since the days in Asgard, but the title of warrior used to be awarded around the third or fourth resurrection, depending on how glorious the previous death was deemed. Didn't count if you offed yourself on purpose, of course. I wondered if any contingencies were added when he found out they were staging battles for sport in Svartalheim. Beware of two-pronged attacks, Bifrost from his dagger and raw physical damage from his hammer. The regular Einhar. Asgard's finest, a warrior of Midgard wants nothing more than to fall in battle. It would ensure passage to Valhalla, a promised land where the honorable and wretched alike are sent. There, Odin selected the best and gave them another chance to die for him, thus creating the Ironheart. It's diabolically genius if one would like to view it that way, and still enough devotion within a bloodthirsty group of undead killers, and you guarantee yourself a nearly endless supply of fodder for your war. Any Bifrost again will detonate next time you're hit, unless you stay undamaged until it dissipates, which would be my humble recommendation. Some carry blades for attacking in quick succession, try to parry these to interrupt their flow. The riders, at one point Odin found it worthwhile to train them to ride Grodungr onto battle, or perhaps it was the other way around, training Grodungr to be ridden by Arnhar. Either way, some training was involved, quite a bit if Grodungr are as wild as they've always been. Mistrustful creatures are rightfully so, given that they've been all forced into servitude by Odin. The archers. Odin's experimentation with Bifrost energy continues to cause us trouble. This time it's in the form of long-range bolts shot from his archers. Not that I'd like to give him credit for anything, but it only makes tactical sense. Imbue the beasts, imbue the short-range weapons, and imbue the arrows, though it does not present a break with tradition. Previously, Ironheart manifested their weapons according to their choice in life. Now that Odin removed that limitation from their afterlife, where do his ambitions cease? These members of Odin's army specialize in wrangling fearsome beasts to their will and can summon them to their aid in combat. Never welcome complication, and that's the tamer. The little bottom here is just ways to fight them, so I'm not going to worry about it. Odin's ravens. Odin had his eyes on us since we began our journey some time ago. Killing these ravens and blinding the Allfather will only aid us on our path. So that was the Aesir. The beasts, the dragon, these magnificent these magnificent winged beasts come from Svartalheim originally, but no, not because they're all transformed dwarves. The curses upon Fafnir and his brother had to be inspired by something, didn't they? Dwarven history is replete with the lore of great dragons who hoarded gold and holed up in the mountainsides. But that's now a bygone age. Or is it? One of the first things Odin did, by way of gaining the trust of dwarves, was to help them with their dragon problem, through a mixture of organized murder, magical imprisonment, and voluntary relocation of their eggs. Involuntary relocation of their eggs. The dragon presence was effectively Aesir repressed for generations. Of course, Odin was playing a much larger game. Where did all those stolen eggs end up? That's an answer we may be only just beginning to understand. The Tatzelworm. Tatzelworm? Few ventures to the land where these tunneling bastards roam, and even a few can survive the attack. They'll burrow through the earth as fish swim through water, waiting for any unsuspecting soul to step on the wrong patch of land. Their barbed tails pierce flesh with ease, flooding their victims with venom. It's an all-around terrible experience, made all worse by the most playful sadism they seem to possess whilst toying with their victims. The curse Tatzelworm. Perhaps by now we're all aware that curse descriptor means there's poison involved. No, not really a need for further elaboration. They just spit highly poisonous danger on the ground. The wretch. Oh, how I'd jump at the chance to smash these little blighters with a well-aimed hoof. The stench they give off rivals a troll's paunch and then some. On their own, they seem an easy foe, but rarely are they seen without companions. A pack of wretches will quickly overwhelm even the strongest of enemies. Wretches thrive in wetlands, find any body of water, and they'll likely be nearby, basking in mud and filth, not doing any favors to their already unique scent. You'll need to be quick on your feet during an encounter with the wretch of any kind, and watch the teeth. Wild wretch, parasites, a lot of them, gifted with several rows of tiny teeth, which makes it easy to attach onto victims and suck away their life force in a snap. Multiply that with several attach on at once, and anyone who would be downed in moments. What possesses these wretches to enjoy this particular form of annoyance is beyond me. Logic tells me they must serve some role in the ecosystem of their home environs, but that seems too generous to grant these malevolent buggers. Nightmares. What a awful pest. Entry complete. Not the most the nightmare parasite. Not the most life-threatening of nightmare variants, but upon reflection, certainly the most terrifying. Any creature that sees fit to take over the mind of another deserves a swift retribution. Exploding nightmare, perhaps the most deadly variant of the nightmare. These like to swarm an enemy in groups, and the moment they feel they have the upper hand, they sacrifice themselves with the good of, well, killing their enemy. Seems counterintuitive if you ask me, but my theory is that they operate as some sort of singular consciousness, like a hive mind. The good of the many makes losing like a few worthwhile in the long run. Ice nightmares, not much different from your run-of-the-mill nightmare, with the exception of ice. It can lob at you given the chance. Best not to give it the chance to attack in the first place. Attack first, and you've got nothing to worry about later. Gloom nightmares are named appropriately, I suppose. They have the ability to temporarily blind their enemies, unfortunate when it happens, but a few well-aimed hits with a ranged weapon and will bother us no more. Drakes are a variety of dragon that originate from Alfheim, but thanks to Odin's systematic meddling with the ecosystem of any realm not his own, who bloody knows where they might show up. What drakes lack in height, they make up for tenfold in power. It isn't an odd occurrence to see buildings brought to ruin when one of them goes on the rampage. The Gulan, or Gulan, most often found in hunting packs. Gulan make quick and dirty use of their teeth for the main method of attack. They're beautiful creatures, but if you're close enough to admire the beauty, it's likely going to cost you an arm or worse. Although I imagine out of any of us, the lad would likely find a way to tame them, bless him. He'd get attached to a dragon if he thought there was half a chance he could befriend it. The Cursed Gulan, a variant of the Gulan that enhances its vicious bites with a mouthful of poison. They seem to prefer vomiting said poison on the ground, the better to keep enemies at a distance. Fascinating defense strategy, being able to create traps with your own stomach acid, if it is indeed stomach acid. It can also stem from various sacs in the mouth and throats to prevent any internal damage. Never get close enough to get a look. Wyvern, as majestic as it is dangerous. Unlike drakes and Dreki, the wyvern is not a member of the dragon family. Their lack of forelegs is more than made up for the dexterity and speed of their wings. Seeing one take flight makes the feat seem as easy as fish gliding through the waters of a calm lake. Wyvern were originally tamed, or rather tamed, quote unquote, at one point in time by the Vanir. Before the occupation of Vanaheim, riders developed close bonds with their mounts, which required a significant amount of trust from either party. It is well worth the trouble, I've been told, so much so that Odin's Einhar have opted to replicate it, enslaving the wyverns of Vanaheim in the process. The Dodher wyvern, one of the deadliest of Asgardian battle beasts. No one asked for a dragon with Bifrost abilities, so some lot saw fit to grant the gift to wyverns. It's not obvious, I feel the need to clarify the lot was Odin. Who knows what experiments he performed on the poor beasts to imbue them with an energy substance as foreign to them as bathing in lava. The Flame Gradungur, a mount favored by Odin's Ironheart. You likened it to a lion from Greece combined with the horns of a goat, the antlers of a stag, and the unnatural ability to combust the foliage around them. A cousin of the Flame Grodungur, these beasts have opted to utilize ice in their attacks rather than the hot-headed relatives, and this is the Frost Grodungur. Dothr Grodungur, another example of Odin taking something that does not belong to him and bastardizing it. Imbuing the Grodungur with Bifrost energy is yet another item on the long list of affronts the one-eyed pricks committed in his conquest. The Dreki. I must confess responsibility for the Dreki that roams Svartalheim. Odin ordered me to disrupt Svartalheim's natural ecosystems in an effort to push the dwarves towards industrialization. I knew these apex predators, a variant of dragon native to Vanaheim, would wreak havoc on the dwarvish ecosystem. What I did not know is just how effective they would be. The complete extinction of several native species in an imbalance that will take lifetimes to undo. Consider this a written confession and a pledge to do everything right in my limited power to set things right. Elves. Dark Elf. Seldom does power come without cost. Alfheim's desert wasn't always a storming and barren wasteland. No, before the temple was built, the desert was a teeming with life. Now the light deprived elves of the barrens wage constant war upon their counterparts in the light well. In their eyes, the lake of souls is to use. How could one blame them? They watched their home waste away as their cousins grew powerful. Dark Elf Lord, the largest and strongest of the Dark Elves we faced. Lords weaponize light and use it to temporarily blind their enemies before landing a devastating attack on them. As if they couldn't simply crush your skull on their own. Perhaps the tactic makes the deaths of their enemies more humane. The warriors, a bit tougher than most Dark Elves, these warriors spend their time training and executing routines to the most efficient of deadly extent. As with most Dark Elves, flight remains an important part of their strategy. Should they attack, the sooner we can ground them, the sooner we can get the upper hand. The Dark Elf Summoners possess the unique ability to call in reinforcements at a moment's notice. Not that cooperation is a particularly novel concept, if anything. It's one of the more effective strategies out there. As overwhelming an enemy can be the quickest way to victory, as such, summoners should be taken down as soon as we spot them as to prevent them from fulfilling their duties. Light Elf Slayers. Slayers prefer a dual sword approach to combat. I've heard tell they feel more in control when both hands are in sync, executing a move rather than a one-hand attack, one-hand block. If they weren't so deadly, their moves could likely pass a dance, one I'd pay decent hack silver to see. Perhaps in a less tumultuous time, elves can lay down their weapons for the pursuit of elegance and pastimes other than war. Light Elf. The regular Light Elves. The discovery of Lake of Souls marked the beginning of the Great Schism within Alfheim. The light well harnessed the power of light, and the elves who spent their days basking in its glow became obsessed with their newfound power. They found new ways to express themselves through art and invention. It was a time of great prosperity for half of Alfheim. Once the realm's living desert began to wither, the other half of the realm deemed the cost of progress too high, thus spawning the violent circle of conflict that continues to this day. The warriors for the Light Elves. These elven warriors are more than proficient with their blades. You'll need to focus properly to make it through a duel with one unscathed. And they're mystics. Mystics prefer to keep their distance, not emotionally. I'm sure they're quite forthcoming with their thoughts and feelings among their comrades, but as battle tactic, they are masterful at conjuring difficult to dodge ranged attacks. Hellwalkers. So this is the Hellwalkers section. Hell Reaver. Reavers die, they reject the call of Valkyries, and well, here we are. Some nasty ice attacks come with their newfound afterlife, so take care of to avoid getting frozen, as it just sends them into a more confident rage. The Hell Raider Chiefs take your garden variety ox of a Raider Chief and replace his blood with the frozen malevolence of Hell itself. Sounds terrible, and rightly so. Hell Raider, your standard stag-styled raider, only dead, and is far more dangerous for it. Relentless, frenzied, rageful creatures, lighting them on fire should help calm them down. Hell Raider Scout, the frozen, undead Hell variant of your owl-styled Raider Scout. Faster, louder, and colder. The Hell Viking, dead Viking, perhaps with a small strength advantage over living counterparts, as most have taken up maces as a means of punishing all those who would stand in their way. Death may have made them strong, but attacking with one huge weapon often leaves opening for a quicker opponent, eh? Hell Shadow. When a shadow crosses into Helheim, I can only imagine the satyr magic leaves their bodies, but the cavity left behind, whether spiritual or physical, must be filled. The ice and winds of the realm, being as aggressive as they are, then rush in, leaving in its place a Hell Shadow imbued with all the frozen forces of Helheim. I can't imagine the process in any way pleasant, even for a dead shadow. The Hell Shadow Archers. This dead shadow has learned a fair bit of ice magic, and as with any archer, with perhaps the exception of Atreus, close range is best strategy to take them out quickly. Otherwise, they'll see to their lance-like projectiles pelting us like there's no tomorrow. Hell Brood. Not that Hell Brood are particularly expressive creatures, but the lack of faces to express with is even more nightmarish than nightmares themselves. If you ask me, I'm also the one penning these entries, so of course, I'm asking me. Good job, Mimir. Hell Traveler, a traveler who continued to follow Odin's phony path even in death. Fat lot of good that did him. Hell Revenant, a chilling varietal Revenant. What's most curious about them is the fact that they made it to Hell sans an intact soul. I was under the impression that one was necessary in order to enter Helheim. As one of the dead, perhaps the satyr magic allows them to bypass whatever would have kept them from the realm in the first place, or they've managed to circumvent the process of death entirely and instead opt to serve the realm itself. I'm wondering if Brock, because he's got that piece of soul missing. I wonder if that's going to come into play. But now his body's gone, so I don't know. This is the Midgardians. Raider Chief. The Raider chiefs adopt the strength of the mighty ox for their fulgia, and visually speaking, it's quite obvious. Massing, hulking forms that can weaponize nearly every part of their body should they throw their weight behind it. According to Raider tradition, chiefs are chosen through several days and nights of combat trials. Only the strongest of warriors are even given the chance, and by the end of the trials, most, if not all, of the contestants are dead, including the winner. Due to drastically dwindling numbers, I think they may have changed their methods. I'm gonna blow my nose quick. Raiders. Few humans are left in the wildwoods these days. Those who survive are either stash themselves away in the warmest place they can find, or should they choose not to hide, have only fended off the cold by transmorgifying their Philgia, their guardian spirit. This part of their soul takes the traits of an animal, allowing them to adapt to Midgard's unforgiving climate. As of late, the various remaining raiders around the wildwoods seem hell-bent on murdering the lot of us. The protection staves keeping the interlopers at bay, but every hunting trip beyond its borders inevitably results in encountering a scouting party or two. Scouts. Raider Scouts. While most raiders favor the strength of pride over the pride of the stag for their Fylgja, Scouts favor the owl for its sharp eyes and sharper talons. They often claim to be able to peer through the eyes of Midgard's owls, but this strikes me as boastful havers. They favor range attacks and are deadly accurate with their slings. The Coal Raider. 'Tis a peculiar schism in the culture of raiders that a group such as this may entirely turn over the focus of their devotion from blood to fire, while maintaining such mainstream raider traditions as their cast of animophilia and their immediate and lethal hostility towards all outsiders. The Coal Raider Scouts. Lest we grow too accustomed to the ordinary pains from slingshots of ranged Raider Scouts, we are blessed to encounter this variant, who instead throw fire all over the bloody place. Travelers. Travelers are zealous worshippers of who follow the path, a mysterious warrior's code that promises fortune and enlightenment waiting for them in Jotunheim. Little do they know that the path is simply an invention of Odin's in order to trick a large number of warriors into finding a way into the home of the giants. They're as strong as they are devout and should never be taken lightly. While the armor our dwarven friends expertly craft has a certain finesse to them, travel armor is heavily reinforced and cumbersome. Getting through it is often the biggest challenge when facing these fanatical bastards. Traveler champions. These travelers prioritize the use of shields when it comes to the combat style of choice, making hitting them quite a bit more difficult when given a surface area would suggest. What qualifications are there in order to become a champion in the traveler's eyes? I doubt as simple as a shield proficiency. So these are monsters. The Grim. The Grim occupy the voluminous middle berth in the life cycles of Svartalheim's hostile gas monsters. The teenagers of the species, for lack of a better word, violent, gassy teenagers, among the most mobile denizens of the Nine Realms, the Grim can climb almost any surface and burrow into the ground at disconcerting speeds, making them all too easy to lose sight of. Fortunately, they haven't developed the ability to fly yet. The Cursed Grim, weak little blighters, but they're more than they make up for it with their poisonous projectile saliva. They're wicked fast to boot, keeping them in views imperative in an encounter, otherwise they'll disappear from eyesight, quicker than you can say grim, and lob snot at you from every possible angle. Unpleasant at best, deadly at worst. Wicked Grim. An encounter with a Wicked Grim will almost certainly lead to a good thrashing from that whip-like apparatus most of us call a tongue. Beware of their favorite pastime, which seems to be lashing said tongue around any available appendage and goring the attached creature to the best of their ability. The Bergshra. If wretches live long enough, they eventually grow several appendages and emerge from the muck as Grim. Then once their skinny buddies have had enough carnage and blood, they will grow into a larger and even more unpleasant Bergshra. Astoundingly, such a transformation takes no longer than a full moon swiggle, which speaks just to how much of the Bergshire's apparent mass is made up of pure Svartalheim gas. The stench permeates them inside and out, and it endures. At least they're a bit easier to hunt than their younger, smaller counterparts. The Bergshire mothers, it should come as no surprise that we despise wretches, but what we despise even more is that little buggers is the thing that spawns them. If wretches are born in the way they smell, one can only imagine how much worse Bergshire mother is in the olfactory sense. Worst of all, killing them has been known to set off an eruption of wretches rather than stave it off. Most unpleasant creatures, the lot of them. Fierce Ogre. Nastier, more brutish than standard ogres. Elaboration on this one is difficult, I'm afraid. Stalker. Stalker huntresses are worship of Skadi, a legendary giantess renowned for her hunting expertise. They're usually a peaceful group, wanting nothing more than to find their next challenge. It appears recent times have made some of them far more aggressive and ruthless. It can be said if it's completely Fimbulwinter's fault. It can't be said if it's completely Fimbulwinter's fault. As with much of the pain in these realms, I suspect Odin's tampering with the natural art has something to do with it. Fear stalkers. While most stalkers prefer the use of a bow, a select few of them have taken up a lance and perfected their skill with it. A well-executed lance throw grants the ability to take down larger prey alongside any other bothersome entity with one fell shot, not to mention how menacing a long, sharp weapon simply looks when brandished. Troll. The sweet scent of a troll. Mead and elk carcass fermenting in the same barrel in the steamiest of Svartalheim swamps. At the very least, they're easy to avoid, given their spore and disregard for the art of stealth. The Wolver. Of all things that would remind me of the home, it's these mangy malcontents. The Isles of my childhood had creatures of a similar build. They were relatively friendly, though, often sharing sharp teeth, thick fur, and a nasty set of claws, making for a tough fight. I'm surprised we're not going to the Pictish thing for the next, because it's kind of a similar thing. All the joys of Wolver, just a bit, because it would be like if we're going to go, like if we're traveling Greece, Europe, like Upper Europe, so like this, and then down to like that Britain area. They could even go down to like do like all of this, like the eastern side of the world, and then move to the western in terms of Native American cultures and stuff like that. Fierce Wolver. All the joys of Wolver, just a bigger and meaner, I would add, with more claws, but I don't think that's true. Certainly feels like it when they take a swipe at you. I can only speculate on what facilitates the transition from a Wolver to one of them more fierce in nature. Perhaps it's down to ancestry, or perhaps it's down to some ineffable law. Survival of the fiercest. Primordials. The Forest Ancient. The jungles of Vanaheim are brimming with Vanir magic, and their cup overfloweth in the case of the Forest Ancients. A bit of a misnomer here. Though they resemble the Fire and Frost Ancients of Midgard, these woodland brutes coalesce and disassemble all in the span of a single season. The Vanir tend to leave them be, but a certain part of the legendary blacksmiths value their hearts, with a certain self-exiled war god is all too happy to acquire in exchange for better gear. Soul Eater. An ancient with its soul removed, cursed with an insatiable hunger for the souls of others. How many of these ambitious abominations did Andvari create? For the sake of Yggdrasil itself, I hope they haven't learned to reproduce. Odd to see them in Vanaheim. Perhaps they were drawn by all the death that took place here. Draugr. It can be hard to picture when faced with charging, snarling mass of fire and rock, but all Draugr were once human. Some were glory-hungry warriors who fell in battle, others were humble farmers trying to defend their homes from bandits and other rabble. The common thread that sealed their fates was an inability to yield even in death. Not even the promise of Valhalla or Volkvanger could tempt them into letting go. Instead, they fought the Valkyries that came to collect their souls. Pure stubbornness and rage kept them bound to the lands where they fell, their bodies twisting into nasty forms as we know today. All their humanity is gone, and all that remains is an insatiable need to fight. Draugr Lord. All manner of creatures have their strongest and heaviest of the lot, and lords fill that role for Draugr. They're bloody massive and equip themselves with heavy weapons that deal quite a lot of damage on impact. Though luckily for us, that also slows them down a fair bit. Dodge them like the agile warrior you are. Draugr Brute. A Draugr so sturdy and so angry that it'll explode in your face and survive to do it again. A Brute's rage charges up as fire in their belly, and I don't mean that metaphorically, mind you. Once they're full up, they can't be damaged until energy explosively discharged, either by your attack or range one if you have any sense, or by them losing patience and charging into you. Draugr Guards. Draugr aren't exactly master technicians, but they can hold up a shield when it suits them, making them even more a nuisance if you're trying to mow them down quickly. Breaking their block seems the quickest way to dispatch them. These Draugr fiends, these Draugrs are fast on their feet, not really too much else to them, although I do wonder if they're granted their swiftness before or after they become Draugr. Either way, they'll attempt to charge you the soonest opportune moment, so best to head them off before they get a good running start. Draugr warriors, Draugr who have charged their weapons with their own flaming fury. Not getting hit with such weapons should be a primary concern. Draugr scouts. These Draugr do their damage by hurling fireballs at a distance, a terrible nuisance in groups, however they are the hardiest of sort, and can be cleared out first with little effort. Draugr Butcher. Butcher seems an apt name for the creature intent on chopping at us with two weapons at the same time. Perhaps it speaks to their manic bloodthirst in life, or perhaps they were all skilled artisans at carving up animal meat to feed their families. I know which one I prefer to believe, and I know which one is more likely true. White. Furious sentient magic. United by a singular purpose, the destruction of life. A natural defense response considering life has given way to Ragnarok. A white is created when a group of three wisps converge into a one whole angry creature. One whole angry creature. If we come across three wisps as they are converging, it is quite possible to disrupt the process. No need to add how strongly I recommend doing so, but every little nudge helps. Flame Phantom, just like the Frost Phantom, but with fire. Frost Phantom. While a single runic spring can leak enough magic to create wisps, multiple springs can summon something far deadlier. The chaotic power that these springs draw from can manifest into a creature that is both awe-inspiring and terrifying. As long as those runic springs remain intact, a phantom will continue to draw magic from them to fuel its continued existence. Wisp, a herald of impending destruction, if ever there was one. The runic magic that flows through the 9 realms is a delicate system. In times of peace, the magic is calm, like a perfectly still lake in the absence of wind. But even the slightest disturbance is enough to cause ripples, and I can't think of a greater disturbance than Ragnarok approaching. Runic springs have begun to appear, causing raw magic to bubble up from the deep, within the very from deep within to make up the realm. From these springs wisps are born, the pure manifestation of magic. With Fimbulwinter upon us, it's no wonder they're encountering more of these little pests by the day. Be wary, though; these may be easy enough to manage in small numbers, but they can quickly overwhelm a seasoned warrior. What's more, they can fuse together to become wights. Curse wisps. Wisps may not have eyes that I know of, but the ones on Vanaheim would curse you just as soon as look at you should they feel even the tiniest bit threatened, or poison. They're quite capable of good poisoning should the mood strike. Gold hair wisps. Wisps are being of pure energy, so the likelihood that Odin managed to imbue them with Bifrost himself seems low. But then again, how else would the Aesir have managed to tame them and use them in battle? With these Dodhair wisps, Ironheart are able to heal or strengthen themselves in a pinch. Best tackle the wisp before dealing with the Ironheart to prevent any unwanted support in Odin's favor. And the last one, the Satyr. Reaver. We seem to be doing more and more Reavers corrupted by the overuse of Satyr magic over time. It's a dangerous game to be playing as the stuff's powerful beyond all belief, but like a well-intentioned evening with a bottle of mead, these things can sneak up on you quickly. The Viking, these Satyr warriors have embraced the magic as part of their own being and exude it from every pore of their body. Seems a bit cumbersome, although it allows them to heal quickly from any wounds they might incur. So probably not as inconvenient in their opinion. Best to deal with them swiftly before they can patch themselves up. The Shadows, human Reavers that have fully embraced all the ways of Satyr magic and has corrupted them, and they're all the more dangerous for it. They favor combat at a distance where they can chuck spells at their enemies. In my opinion, their newfound preferences make them quite a bit more cowardly in their advanced corruptions, but I can't wield magic as they do, so who am I to judge? The Noken. There are pleasant singing voices, there are terrible singing voices, and then there are Noken voices. My advice to anyone lucky enough to hear the Noken's vile, throaty song: turn around and march straight in the opposite direction. Doughty adventurers that we are, we ignore such nonsense. These gangly little creatures prefer to remain hidden, out of harm's way, so they can inflict their chant upon unsuspecting enemies and allies. Cursed Noken, this lovely cousin of the humble Noken, has discovered the gift of granting boons to its allies during a fight. It relies on the strengths of others to keep it safe out of harm's way. Fascinating how smart these little things have become since they first crawled out of whatever hole they spawned from. Legion. Very similar to Brood in terms of appearance, but the additional boon of poison. Unclear if Legion were created alongside the original Brood, or if they were a result of Vanir experimentation, which isn't entirely out of the realm of possibility. Revenant. As with many of the dastardly creatures we encounter, Revenants are always Zomatras. They were run-of-the-mill witches until they traded parts of their soul for more power. In time, their humanity all but disappeared, leaving behind cackling monstrosities with penchant for poison, and a lesson for all those who seek power. The Revenant Hag, a witch who's traded away damn near every last piece of her soul to practice Satyr magic, with the added bonus of being able to summon allies to her aid in an instance. One day I'd like to have a sit down and ask if they felt the price of their humanity was ultimately worth it. There's nothing worse than a trade you can't take back after seeing less than satisfactory results. I imagine they feel very confident until they meet you, brother. Okay, that's all the bestiary. So, here we go. Lore. This is gonna be fun. Faye. It has been too long since Faye left us, and we spread our ashes from the highest peak in Jotunheim. A journey she planned, one that neither of us was ready for. I dream of her in simpler times when being together was enough. My duty now lies solely with our son, but I still have so many questions for her. So much that I still do not understand. I see glimmers of her in Atreus, and they make me smile, but I am left with those same questions as I try to guide him along his path. He is focused on who he will become, and while it becomes difficult to keep him close, I am grateful I can continue this journey with him for now. Oh, Kratos. Fenrir. The wolf Fenrir has been in decline for some time now. Atreus cares for the animals deeply and has not been able to accept that he is dying. In the past, I would have told him to close his heart to this loss, but he has already endured so much. I see the compassion in his heart. I am proud of the man he is growing into, but I must keep him focused if he is ready for more dark days ahead. Kratos relieved. really matured. What was such a dangerous hellhound tearing into the realms has now become Atreus' wolf Fenrir, returned. His knife had captured Fenrir's soul. Plunging it into Garm released the soul into the body. I am not fearful of my son's abilities, but his power takes me surprised as it grows. Like Kratos being so insightful is awesome. Not long ago, we rescued a pack of wolves. So this is Specky and Svana. Not long ago, we rescued a pack of wolves from raiders on the Lake of Nine. Despite my warnings, Atreus decided to name them. Having these two to pull the sled has made transportation significantly easier. Specky and Swan have served us well and been welcome companions of this leg of our journey. I see their need for affection. I feel a desire to protect them and bring them comfort. I am pleased that we were able to rid the realm of raiders to slay their kin. If it is within my power, I will let no wolf suffer the same fate. Oh, Kratos. Mimir has lived with us since our return from Jotunheim. I have known few I would call friend, and brother fewer still, but I have come to rely on the wisdom and counsel of the smartest man alive, quote unquote. Also, he is compact and does not consume precious resources. Atreus. Atreus has grown much since our journey to Jotunheim. We have trained together winter upon winter with no summers between. He is stronger, more capable, more adept in battle, and an excellent climber. But he still has much to learn if he is to master his emotions with discipline. He remains distracted by thoughts of Loki and the destiny foretold by the giants. Whatever his mother's people intended for him, whatever she intended, I will keep him safe and prepare him while I can. Skoll and Hati. Of all the stories Mimir told us of the giants, this was among the most difficult to believe. Giant wolves, the power to chase day into night and back again, yet the secrets Atreus uncovered within their shrine revealed that they are alive. Perhaps then, so is Tyr. See? Yeah, the accent. Broke. The dwarven blacksmith Broke was the first ally we encountered when we set out for the mountain's peak. He and his brother Sindri made the Leviathan axe for Faye, and this has been our common bond. Broke is blunt with foul tongue, but there is wisdom in his bluster. I find him acceptable company. Sindri. On our journey to Jotunheim, Sindri proved himself a capable blacksmith and valuable ally. Now he has been helping Atreus in his search for Tyr. I am unhappy this was done without my knowledge, though it is better Atreus was not alone on this path. I will attempt to spare the dwarf my wrath. It may not be easy. Rabe. The dwarven proprietor of the tavern in Nidavellir. He was forthcoming with Durlin's location and also a bitter anger towards Mimir. His establishment is too small and unwelcoming. I hope he is a better musician than he is a barkeep. The Lingbacher. It appeared that Mimir has enacted many cruelties here in Svartalheim, none more reprehensible than chaining this creature and harvesting its fat for oil. To perform an act so heartless and to put it out of one's mind, to never speak of it, it reminds me of a boat captain I wronged long ago. He too was robbed of his freedom and suffered because of who I was and the choices I made. Perhaps there is a measure of monster inside of us all. Dang, that bringing that boat captain back again from the first game. Durlin, a minor official of the dwarven city Nilvir, at one time an ally of Faye's in an effort to resist Odin. Now he numbs his failures in drink, yet it appears he has aided us with a map of Tyr's location. Also, his sea creature Dinir gave us Atreus an unusual stone. Ratatoskr, a large and extremely talkative squirrel who claims to take care of the world tree. He's overly familiar, yet seems harmless and benevolent. His spectral aspects, quote unquote, have aided us before and may again. He revealed that the stone he gave to Atreus by Dinir was a seed for us to use in realm travel. If he continues to prove useful, I may tolerate his excessive blather. Tyr. Of all the myths and legend Mimir has unfolded to us, none have inspired Atreus as the life of Tyr. Once the god of war in these lands, he dedicated himself to peace, a hero not only to mortals of Midgard, but to those of far-off lands of other pantheons, to which he traveled to the name of diplomacy. Even the Jotnar revere him. It is believed his aid is what made the giants disappear, escaping Odin's wrath, at least for a time. I am not certain he will prove as useful to us as Atreus hoped, either as leader or as a source of information, though perhaps with patience he will recover himself. Most importantly, he seeks neither war nor revenge for the suffering visited upon him. In this I am grateful. When Asgard fell, the true prison holding Tyr fell with it. We happened upon it in Niflheim. Finally, we meet the war god of legend. He is different from the one we thought we knew, yet he has been through much and needs space to recover. May he find peace in the he seeks in this new world. Hafgufa. We had discovered that the source of sandstorms in Baron was a creature Mimir calls the Half-Gufa. I encountered something like this as a boy, but it was a much smaller sea creature that did not fly. Now that the storm has subsided, we can explore the desert freely and collect resources. To the west, we see another sandstorm likely caused by another Half-Gufa. We should ease this creature's pain when the time is right. The Half-Gufas have been released, and the sandstorms of the deserts have subsided. Once reunited, they mated, gave birth, and died. Their species will live on. I am pleased we were able to free them, and that I was able to spend this time with those who are close to me. These creatures offer a reminder that the time we have with our loved ones is short and never guaranteed. I'll remember this moment fondly. Kratos is awesome. Freya. Freya continues to pursue us, seeking revenge for the death of her son Balder. I do not wish to fight her. She was my friend, but I will defend myself if she forces my hand. I do not see a peaceful resolution to our situation. Though I tried for so long to avoid it, we were forced to confront Freya head on. For the time being, she has stayed her blade, and I have agreed to travel with her to Vanaheim. I do not believe she will ever forgive me, but perhaps our journey will give her time to reconsider her need for vengeance. Our journey in Vanaheim was successful in breaking Odin's curse on Freya and allowing us to forge a new alliance. With her anger now focused on Odin, perhaps we can free ourselves of his influence altogether. I am relieved to think of her as a friend once more. I can imagine no more formidable ally. Freyr. We have met Freyr, the brother of Freya, in Vanaheim. He is an unusual god, roguish, not as impressive as his sister, yet his allies seem loyal and include many I would not expect to cooperate. He does not resemble any great leader I have known, nor does he share his strengths. What makes him so able to unite former enemies, and will it work with Freya? Lunda. An old friend of Brock and blacksmith to Freyr's army. She seems the Hulda brothers equal in skill. She is also their equal in being too familiar too quickly and behaving strangely. Her comments are often puzzling and difficult to interpret, and I catch her staring. Often. However, her armaments are strong. I will tolerate her. Bela and Bigvir. Bela, a dark elf, and Bigvir, a light elf, are allies of Freyr, and something more than allies to each other. After seeing so much division and anger in Alfheim, to see them together is striking. It is reason to hope that elves may yet find peace. Perhaps aiding them by exploring the hidden sanctum in the Alfheim desert will help us to correct our own path towards the elves. Helka. Helka is a hound of unusual girth, who is kept by allies of Freyr's camp. Her tracking skills are impressive. If Birgir survives to return home from his fall into the jungle, he will have the dog to thank his life. Hildsvini. When we first met Freya as the Witch of the Woods, we had wounded her magical boar and helped her to heal him. Now we have met him and restored his human form. I trust the counsel of Freya and Freyr. He appears to hold no grudge against Atreus and I, but his rivalry with Mimir seems long and bitter. The Norns. The fates of these realms, their names are Erd, Verdani, and Skuld. I do not know how I know this. Their meddling inside my mind is already proving difficult to recall, yet an uneasy feeling remains. No matter, I remember learning Heimdall is a threat to my son. That is enough. Sigrun. Sigrun, the Valkyrie Queen, was the most lethal opponent Atreus and I faced in our prior adventures. Long ago, she was loved by Mimir and clearly he remembers her warmly. But her utmost loyalty is to Freya, having aided her in restoring her warrior spirits and recovering her Valkyrie wings. Kelpie. Our search for the Norns led us to the mystical horse. Mimir called it a Kelpie. It walked upon the water, transformed, and then dove beneath the surface, carrying us to the Norns' inner sanctum. I expect our departure to be no less unpleasant. May the Norns make this journey worthwhile. Hrothgar. I probably said that really wrong. Hrothgar. We have spoken to the eagle that presides here in Helheim. She watched from afar while I battled the bridge keeper in our prior journey. Now, by releasing Garm, we have opened 6 terraces to Helheim. Hrothgar is not pleased, but does not appear to be our enemy. That is for the best. The Lady of the Forge. Brock spoke of the lady with much reverence before our arrival. In fact, this mermaid is herself the Forge, and of this mountain. Her melding the pieces of the Draupnir spear was a sight like unlike I have witnessed. It is unfortunate she could not see Brock due to his missing soul bits. Surtur. Surtur has agreed to help us if we do not involve Samara. He believed that his fire channeled through the blades of chaos alone can provide the spark needed to bring forth the monster who will destroy Odin and Asgard. This man of ash cares nothing for his life, only for those he loves. He bears her heart in his chest and is separated from his own, as he separated from her. I believe I understand his condition. Birgir. bears the armaments of travelers, yet he has abandoned Odin's false path and sworn himself to Freyr in the defense of Vanaheim. We feared him lost after a selfless act allowed us to escape in the Skibelundir. I am pleased we were able to repay that debt and rescue him in return, a brave and honorable warrior. Dain. Faye once spoke to me of Dain, the stag of spring. She called him the dead one, for the season of rebirth can never come without the death to lay the way. The thought came as comfort to me as she knew it would. Faye would refer to Dvalin, the stag of summer, as the unconscious one, named for when the winds grow calmest. The dwarven names of these stags led her to wonder if they evolved from primordial dwarves who embodied the winds. The thought seemed less strange to me after encountering Fafnir and his brothers. Once during a great storm, Faye told me the story of Autumn Stag Dunair, also called the Sound of Thunder. To my regret, I remember it little. I only remember her, the fire in her eyes, the passion in her voice, her very being animated by the colors of the season and the ferocity of the winds. The memory of her spirit long outlives her words. Doropnor. In our journey to deliver Faye's ashes, it was a Jotnar statue of Doropnor, the stag of winter, that aided our passage to the mountain of Midgard. It is only fitting when Atreus was too excited to sleep, Faye would sing of the thriving slumber, the sleep of winter that allows for the dreaming of spring. The body needs rest, she would say, but the soul needs to dream. And that's all that. Foes. Balder. I do not regret Balder's death. Had I allowed him to kill Frey, he would not have abandoned his pursuit. His fate would have been the same. I do not expect Frey to accept what happened as necessary. She will likely pursue us until one of us are dead. Magni and Modi. Magni and Modi, the sons of Thor, also pursued us on our journey. Magni was strong but arrogant until his last breath. Modi proved himself a coward, but I pitied him in his last moments. There seemed to be a little forgiveness among the Aesir gods, and I expect that we have yet to suffer the consequences of the blood we spilled. Thor. There are many differences between Thor and his brother Balder. Balder fought wildly, his motivation to inflict pain. Thor is calmer, his bloodlust is for the fight itself, not for the suffering it inflicts. The full force of his attack is as heavy as any of I have felt. The hammer Mjolnir only compounds his power. Each blow acts as the death and destruction they have wrought together. He chose to end our fight prematurely. It is good for both of us that he did not reach the conclusion. Odin. Like his son before him, Odin has come to our door. He does not seek vengeance for Balder, but instead speaks of peace and inaction. Odin claims that Atreus has been searching for Tyr and his request to halt his endeavor. I am not pleased that he knows more about what my son is doing than I. While I do not approve of what Atreus has done behind my back, I will not abide the gods of this realm coming to my home and dictating our actions. If he does not want us searching for Tyr, it is likely that it is exactly what we should be doing. I like how this is like. I must note that he offered a deal of peace of our inaction. If I did not have better counsel, I would have been tempted to take it. His threat to Freya made this impossible. She may persist as a danger, but to ally against her with her former husband is unacceptable. The Huntress. The stalker that ambushed us has broken my shield. She was a formidable huntress and fought well. I must alter my defensive strategy now that I do not have my ability to block. At least now I will be mentally prepared if we encounter another stalker. Hertha the Hateful. I've never encountered a Draugr like this one before. It fights as if it's fueled by infinite hate. It emerged from a scar in the earth that closed once we defeated the monster. If we encounter more of these holes, we must close them and put down any creatures that emerge. Mimir has identified her as a former empress called Hertha. I do not care who she ruled over. I will put her back in the ground. Alva. Winters ago, we defeated the Dark Elf Kings. Svartal Lofer, I don't know. It appears in his absence. A new guardian of the Temples of Light was anointed. Her swordsmanship and command of her form was unlike any I've gone up against. She was the aggressor, but once again, Atreus questioned if we have helped the wrong side. Framed for the struggle between the light and the dark elves. The only side we can take on this conflict is our own. Fiska. What sort of mortal to be in life to be given such power and authority in Valhalla? To wield a scythe and defend territory with such vigor, I imagine this Fiska, a farmer who took up arms against some threat and proved adept at slaughter. And for his valor, he is awarded an afterlife of more slaughter. I wonder whether he even has a choice. Nidhogg. I do not know why a creature such as this would be so devoted to guarding the roots of a tree, but she gave her life in the defense. Odin exploited Nidhogg's purpose, protecting the roots of the world tree, to guard his curse, the curse he placed upon Freya. To use an otherwise innocent being's nature to lead to its destruction is a vile practice. I do not regret slaying Nidhogg to gain Freya's freedom, but how many others are in unwitting service of Odin? How many more will lie dead because of it? The Maven, the vigilant steward of the Alfheim Library, our ally in Vanaheim, Big Veer, told me this steward comes from a long line of elves who follow the same path, librarians. A library exists to hold and share knowledge. To hide this away and claim it would destroy the lighthouse from within is to lack faith in the people who would most benefit from it. Oluf Nautson, the leader of the Coal Raiders, uh, will threaten the wolves of Midgard no longer. Atreus has grown close to Specky and Svanna since their rescue, but over time I have come to rely on them as well. They are loyal and well-mannered for the most part. I hope I have been able to put their troubled minds at ease now that Oluf will never lay hands on them again. Heimdall was everything described, a cruel, pompous bully and formidable foe. His gifts of intuition were nothing to be ignored, nor was the unexpected mastery of Bifrost. When I struck a blow that should have ended the fight, I tried to heed the voice in my head that he was beaten, not worth killing, but Heimdall sensed my pity, and it shamed him. His pride would not allow him to accept my mercy, so in the end I gave him none. It was not my choice, and yet I feel satisfied. Have I proved the Norns wrong, or have I proved them right? Ormstunga. The poisonous fumes that this creature emitted rivaled that of a newly erupted volcano in Greece. The air around it smelled of rot and winter's old must. We have seen many Grimm in Svartalheim. I had thought they could not get more deadly than they already were. I was incorrect. Micklemuner. As we again passed the mine in Svartalheim, where we first freed Tyr, we found a troll had taken up occupation of the prison. I do not know why such a creature would seek out and remain in a mine, let alone defend it. Then again, if the dwarves found value in such a place, perhaps Micklemuner did as well. Hrist and Mist. To fight two Valkyries in tandem is to face both the sea and the sky as they crash down as one. The coordination in battle is unmatched. It is pity their fealty to Odin is by choice and not a corruption abated by their death. I would always prefer a Valkyrie fight on my side. Our aim was to take the mask back to Odin, perhaps Atreus with it. I hope news of their demise travels swiftly to Asgard. Gna. Odin's final Valkyrie queen. At one time she was Freya's handmaiden, friend, and trusted confidant. Mimir has called her a traitor, but it was clear she believed she was the one betrayed. Freya had spoken highly of her ambition, her conviction, and her unyielding loyalty. These would be admirable qualities in a warrior, yet in the end her loyalty proved misplaced in Odin. Even after his defeat, she met her end with dignity, though Frey took no satisfaction in delivering it. Stinir and Sterker. Brothers still in the service of Odin after Asgard has fallen, what they had hoped to achieve in the deserts of Alfheim has now blown away with the sands of the wind. Should any more Asgardian forces remain loyal to Odin, I'll rid this land of them. The Oathguard, travelers, old comrades of Birger who had stayed on the path while he rejected it. Odin, hiding behind a false name, promised them a paradise in exchange for their loyalty. But like so many others before them, they had been fooled. Birger made efforts to awaken them to the truth, but they proved to be vain. To abandon a poisonous path and walk another is no simple challenge. For mortals, for gods, Birger's brother lacked his courage. Breton. we encourage this creature in the jungles of Vanaheim. Freya later told me of the legend he carried with him. Stories of his fierceness were told to young Vanir children to keep them in line. She would not say how much Vanir blood had been spilt by his claws, but from the solemnity of her voice, it was no small amount. Solemnity? With the beast slain, parents will need to find a new way to scare their offspring into obedience. Ormur. A mysterious creature, Mimir tells me it was born from an ember that escaped Surtur's hammer as he worked his forge. The steward of Muspelheim used his elbows to breathe in life to the ember, and its first act of existence was to steal and consume the precious metals the smith had been using to forge a weapon. Mimir tried to tell me Surtur found this amusing. Were I Surtur, I would not be amused. The Ravenkeeper. According to Mimir, this Ravenkeeper was an acolyte of Odin. Lacking the physical prowess of a Valkyrie, she proved no less useful for her cunning and satyrcraft. Odin was in need of eyes on all the realms. She was offered a solution. She stole the souls of children and reshaped them according to Odin's malevolent will. In freeing the ravens around the realm from her servitude, we incurred her wrath. Now we have rid the realms of both the winged spies and their creator. I hope those poor children may find some measure of peace. You suck, lady. And Odin. King Hrolf Kraki? Former owner of the cursed blade Skofnung, an unworthy man who declared himself king. Mimir spoke bitterly of how he and his berserkers laid waste to the kingdom of Lair. It is unlike Mimir to seek vengeance, but his cause is just. I have taken Hrolf's sword, once a symbol of betrayal, and used it to rid these realms of him and his followers. I hope this brings Mimir some peace. Hardrofil the Callous, a follower of the false King Hrolf. According to Mimir, he was known for his particular cruelty in battle. Hardrofil's skill with a blade was precise and used precision to extend the suffering to his victims. Instead of beheading them in one swift move, he would dismember, slow and deliberate, a vile practice. He will be forgotten. Fraekne the Zealous, one of King Hrolf's berserkers. Fraekne would never back down from a challenge, quote unquote. Mimir tells me he spits after saying this, but refuses to elaborate further. Longer the Bearded, perhaps in life, Longer the Bearded had intimidating facial hair. In death, I saw nothing of consequence. If that was where his strength lay, he should have ensured it would accompany his soul in the afterlife. I pity him. Hair is temporary, as are we all. Hvitzerker the Bold, according to Mimir, Hvitzerker was in a life a powerful necromancer, violating the natural order to summon the dead in his will. In death, it seems his ability inverted, allowing him to summon only living creatures as his minions. Only those corrupted by Satyr are susceptible to this, but it was enough to prove dangerous. We are well rid of this berserker. Big Otter, Big Otter the Feared. Mimir would not tell me the transgression of this berserker. He informed me he is relieved of the heinous bastard, quote unquote, the heinous bastard is gone for good. Continue to speak ill of this Big Otter for a few moments more, but I do not wish to write the rest of his words. I too am glad to see his demise. Skiothendi, the Unerring. Unerring feels a fitting title as her aim was true. However, Mimir tells she earned it during their days as an assassin. Her targets would meet their ends without fail, but not until after every ally around them had been killed first. Hjalti the Stolid, a berserker of King Hrolf, we defeated in the deserts of Alfheim, known for her force, quote unquote, as Mimir puts it. During her life, after she had defeated an opponent, she would not stay her maces. Hjalti would continue her assault long after the body was beyond recognition. This Hrolf kept truly depraved company. Voter the Prideful, I am told Voter was one of King Hrolf's favorite berserkers. Her early life as a traveling rhapsode, as she would be called in Greece, led to her ability to move swiftly but attack in full force with her destructive magic. People of many talents should rightfully be feared, but she will be feared no longer. Hromundur the Cruel, Mimir tells me Hromundur the Cruel received her name from the one particular battle, the last end of Dolfdun, during which King Hrolf's opponents declared defeat. Hromundur used only her magic, then performed a blood eagle on the surviving general. I am familiar with this method of execution, but have not yet heard of magic used to enact it. The prospect is violent and unnecessary. Svipdagger the Cold. In life, Svipdagger was said to sharpen her axes on the bones of her enemies. That really wouldn't work all that well. Mimir has garnished the truth before in favor of a good story, but in this instance I cannot allow it. Bones will not sharpen bones will not sharpen weapons. If the dwarves were to hear this, I do not doubt they would mock it furiously. Bodvar the Fierce. I have been told this Bodvar had all the brains of a hammer, quote unquote. If this is true, it is to wonder King Hrolf's company were able to hold the reputation Mimir claims they did. A good warrior must be sound in mind as they are in body. Still, I knew many companies in Greece who applied strength and brutality over strategy. Brutality alone never won a war. Storulfur the Troublesome. We fought Storulfur alongside Bodvar the Fierce in Svartalheim. Shortly after, Mimir spoke bitterly of her notoriety and subterfuge. By cover of night, she would kill families of powerful enemies rather than the rulers or generals. This incited swift surrender from some and brutal retaliation from others. Either outcome was enjoyable to her. The Crimson Dread. During the rescue of our ally Burger, we encroached upon this creature's territory. I understand the needs to protect the land one calls home, but if someone were to pass through my land peacefully on a mission to save a comrade, I would not launch an aerial attack on them unprompted. The Corpse Eater. I did not think dragons took pleasure in scavenging. We found this creature after defeating 2 ogres. I had defeated the second one of the 2, and this Corpse Eater took advantage of our victory and flew off with its prize. We then gave chase. I have no use for a dead ogre, but there is no pride in stealing another's kill. The Ash Tyrant, after the long winter in Midgard, traveling to other warmer realms has been welcome relief. The fire breath of these dragons, however, gave me a new appreciation for the cold. The Everlasting, we found this dragon on a shore in Svartalheim. To imprison a beast in this way, regardless of its misdeeds, seems especially cruel. If no training is possible, it would ensure the safety of all to destroy it. Instead, too much reliance is placed on the bearer of the relic that imprisoned it, which leaves a wide berth for error and mishap. The Pale One, a dragon summoned by Odin's Raven Keeper. During our battle with her, to summon a creature such as this, I must wonder, did she imprison the beast just as she imprisoned her ravens? If that is so, perhaps killing the Pale One, like its raven counterparts, brought it freedom. If not, an evil creature is defeated. Gravel Belly. We found this drake in the deserts of Alfheim behind a door. I had been expecting treasure or a new area of the desert to explore, but was instead met with this beast. The blue marking on its head were like nothing I had seen before. They could be considered beautiful were the creature not trying to dig its tusks into my flesh. Slaghorn, a drake we tackled in the jungles of Vanaheim, one that seemed to enjoy burrowing under the earth and goring its victims to death with its tusks. Freya tells me these creatures were not native to this realm. There's now one fewer of their numbers. Craigjaw, in Vanaheim's greater crater, we encountered a drake known as Craigjaw, a digging beast who had destroyed many of the Vanir stone structures called home. Perhaps with this creature gone, the quaking here in Vanaheim will cease. Dodir Vorder, we encountered this troll in Svartalheim on our mission to find Tyr. Trace and I were fortunate this creature had positioned itself perfectly to break our fall. In gratitude, I put it out of its misery. VC Hagelkorn, a troll we encountered in Midgard. The winds carried its stench so far I could smell it long before I saw it. Fighting these beasts in the dead of winter is one of the few ways to keep warm without a fire. I appreciate this, however, we may run out of trolls. Bjarg Stormer, a troll we awoke from slumber in Alfheim's eastern desert, imprisoned by the dwarf Alvis Stonefoot. The sands of the desert is not unlike those from the dunes of Lemnos in Greece. They are rough and find their way into the crevice large enough to fit even a single grain. With the wild winds of this realm, I am sure the creatures awoke with a great deal of irritation. Bloduger Stein, a troll imprisoned by Alva Stonefoot in Midgard, to be kept so still by magic or frost is a horror to consider. How like death it is. Yet to only sleep, a prisoner inside your mind, I do not wish to think of it. And that's all of them. Atreus' friends and foes. Charlie. Freya must have been so obsessed, and there's these little turtles all over the place. I saw them in, I think it was it Vanaheim? Freya must have been so obsessed with hunting at us that she neglected her giant turtle house, or her so-called friend. When I first saw Charlie out in the cold, I thought he might be dead. He's alive, but he's freezing out there alone. I lit a fire to keep him warm, but he's going to need someone to stay with him full-time if he's going to survive much longer. Jormungandr. We haven't seen Jormungandr since Fimbulwinter began. I was beginning to think he'd left the Lake of Nine, somehow, but Sindri's nose was right. The world serpent woke up when I called, but when I asked him about Loki and what I should do, all he said was, Jarnvidir. Not helpful. No idea what Ironwood means, but it was still nice to see him again. Freya, well, our chat wasn't all I hoped for, but it was actually could have gone much worse. At least now I know she doesn't want to kill me, not really. She seemed interesting to learn about Odin visiting and Tyr being alive, and me being the last giant, and especially about the realm travel being unlocked. Really not sure what she's going to do next, but hopefully it won't be using all the information I just gave her to attack us again. Yeah, I really didn't think this through. Skilder. Skilder lives outside the walls of Asgard, in a camp of refugees from Midgard. I guess Odin actually saved a lot of people from the desolation, even though he caused it. I wouldn't have believed that, but I can tell Skilder's honest. He's nice, funny, and about my age. I didn't come to Asgard to make friends, but maybe I already have. Hugin and Munin. These two aren't like the spies we see around the realms. Hugin and Munin are Odin's own weird magical pets. Back at the house, I saw them disappear into his tattoos. Mimir told me once how they came to be that way, how they were normal ravens once until Odin captured their whole unkindness. Most of them he roasted and ate for supper, but on Hugin and Munin he experimented, wiping their memories and binding them to his will. Mimir also referred to them as right pricks, even for birds. Heimdall. Heimdall, the bearer of Gjallarhorn. Mimir said he was dangerous, a true believer of Odin. He didn't mention what a complete jerk he is, or that he seemed to be able to read people somehow. The less time I spend around this guy, the better. Odin. After all the terrible things I've heard about Odin, I never expected him to be so respectful of me. Back at the cabin when he invited me to Asgard, and since arriving here he seemed genuinely interested to know who I am and what I think. I know I can't trust him too far, but it's nice to be listened to. I feel safer around him than I thought I would. Let's see what answers this has for me. Sif. Meeting Sif was really uncomfortable. She was so icy towards me, and I started to worry she knew what I did to Modi, but I know nobody saw that. It's bad enough for me that she blames father, and now I'm in her home. If I know what's good for me, and I think I do. I'll just stay out of her way. Thrud. I'd heard Magni and Modi had a sister, but I'd forgotten about it until she had her sword in my face. Thankfully, she's nothing like them. The way she talks about Modi and how she's better off without him makes me realize what it must have been like growing up around such a creepy bully. Still weird sleeping in his room, but Thrud seems great, and I hope I can get to know her better. I guess there's good people even among the Aesir gods. Ingrid, I found a magic sword in Odin's study. He says her name is Ingrid and that I can carry her while I'm here. She seemed really happy to be getting out of and seeing some action. Do swords get bored? I wonder where she came from. Thor. I had never heard any stories about Loki and Thor going on adventures together. This may be strangest part of this whole trip. Thor doesn't seem happy about it, or anything else for that matter, but it's what Odin wants, and that means Thor will do it, even if he'd rather smash with his hammer instead. Hopefully while I'm here I can figure him out a little better. Angraboda. There's a girl here in Ironwood. Her name is Angraboda, and she's the same age as me. A giant, too. She's really funny, and she paints, and is friends with the wolves here. She's like anyone I have ever met in so many different ways. She says she has been waiting her whole life to meet me, which sounds kind of crazy. It's actually a lot of pressure to try and meet whatever expectations she has of me. I just need to stay calm and get a better feel for everything that's going on here. But wow, so much is happening so fast. Yala. Angraboda has a yak named Yala. It was funny, she said, I want you to meet someone, and I thought for a moment there might be more giants, but she meant Yala. I get the sense Yala might be her best friend, which maybe sounds sad, I guess, but I think it's kind of amazing. Makes me miss Fenrir, though I still also feel like he's with me somehow. I wish she could have met him. It must be lonely living here, but I know how much it helps having a connection to animals. Isa. First the wolves, then a yak, and now a magical fox with huge ears. Angraboda sure has a lot of animal friends. During our race rematch, Isa was fast, like really fast, even with Angraboda on her back. I almost kept up with her, but yeah, I still lost. It felt good to finally be in control of my wolf form, though. I just had to think about Angraboda and what she must be feeling, holding on to, I don't know, compassion or something to keep rage in check. I wonder if that's how Father does it. Rila is an Angraboda's grandmother. Normally I would be so excited at the thought of beating one of the only other remaining giants, but she and Angraboda's relationship is strained, to say the least. Not in the way the father and I were before our journey, but it sounds like Grilla did something to hurt Angraboda. She said Grilla changed after Angraboda's father refused to challenge his fate. Earlier we saw soulless animals. Is she taking the souls of living things? Angraboda said Grilla is not lost. Is lost, and from what I can see, she's right. She can't take the souls of animals anymore, but that isn't the end of her story. I hope she and Angraboda can eventually fix things. Angraboda deserves a supportive family just as much as Grilla does. Garm. I know I really made the wrong call on this one, but in my defense I saw a chained-up wolf in bad shape. I thought maybe if I freed this guy he'd be happier, maybe even a friend. How could I possibly know it would tear open realms and wreak absolute havoc? I know he must have been hurting bad, and animals are dangerous when they're hurting, but I wish he'd have let me help him. Now I don't know what's going to happen to him or any of us, I guess. Okay. Lore markers. Okay. This one says unsafe roads. Careful travel. This road leads to Nidvalir. Sure, but so too does it lead to dangers beyond mention. If you give a damn about your safety, you will find an alternate route to the City of Iron. Should you succeed, find me so I can spread the word of whichever route you took that didn't end with you getting your skin peeled off your body by something hungry and pissed off. Derlin. Cooperation. We built this realm with our dwarven hands, reinforced it with dwarven muscle, innovated it with our dwarven minds, but we no longer have to do this alone. Our strength and ingenuity has finally found an equal in the Aesir of Asgard. Now dwarven smiths will work hand in hand with Aesir soldiers and engineers. Now Aesir backs will share the burden with our dwarven brethren, lightening the load for us all. It was the dwarves who made Svartalheim what it is, but together with the Aesir we can make it something even better. Warning, if you can read this, return to work. Regarding the removal of resources. 1. When making your initial strike, use an axe, not a pick. You use a pick, you go too deep, you get red flow. You get red flow, somebody has to clean it up. 2. Pre-dawn remains the best time to harvest. Grogginess and disorientation are still a major factor before the sun comes up, so the chance of accidents become much lower. 3. Always wear earplugs. The living desert. The jewel of Alfheim is our most sacred, fertile desert, teeming with an unequaled diversity of life, from the majestic Halfgufa and their dulcet song of the sands to the wide array of turtles and lizards found in the Hjarta, and the abundant herds of gazelle and ibex roaming and the shifting dunes. All creatures of the desert are given breath by the grace of the light. Take a moment and witness the grandeur. Reflect. Keep well thy realm. The desert of our ignorance. So much of who we are is lost. Not just this desecrated leviathan nor its ilk, but the very identity of this creature is knowledge forgotten. Was it a predator, a wraith of the barrens to be feared and avoided, or perhaps a gentle behemoth tamed by pre-division elves and farmed for meat? The answer is a grain of sand in our desert of our ignorance. Our history remains buried beneath generations of dead elves. Should another manage to rise above our malignant dogma search for answers, let these bones serve as a warning. If nothing changes, we will remain forgotten. The Council. The tower's purpose. Though it now serves as a military outpost, this tower architecture indicates a different function of the time before the division of light and dark. I can find no mention within the archives, which is not altogether unusual. Many of the texts within have been sanitized across generations. But the very absence of any information is telling, in and of itself. What sacrilegious ceremonies were held here, so inimical to our current status quo, that the librarians eradicated all mention of this tower's true purpose? I can't help but assume the answer is the key to lasting peace. The Council. Unaturliker. Two Gulan sit in front of this marker that says unnatural. They're tied to a sled and completely calm. Strange. How long have they sat here? They're just as well behaved as Specky and Svana. Gulan call. Thanks to the opposition's grotesque hypocrisy, Alfheim's Gulan are a threat to our livelihood. Though I have called many of the surface, there are undoubtedly more down below in the Dark Elves' hovels. So long as we deny them access to our light, the pair at the desert entrance shall remain the only docile versions of these foul beasts. Let them remain. They will serve as useful subjects for further light infusion experimentation. The Maven. The Enlightened One. In honor of Enlightened One, may his gift shine eternal. May his light serve as a beacon of harmony. May peace endure among the elves as we forever bask in this radiant glow. Bjorg Stormer. Casualties caused 43 dwarven, 22 other. Method of imprisonment, note slumber. Prison location, Alfheim. Date of release, not applicable, it's a troll. Rehabilitation is impossible. Feel free to use a rousing relic if you're desperate enough to get your skull caved in. Imprisonment, overseas by Alvis Stonefoot, Svartalheim, otherwise known as he who is running out of patience for writing these reports. Rules of the Sanctum. All visitors must observe strict silence inside the library, even in vestibule, passageway, grand halls, mezzanine, and upper circle. No books are to leave the premises for any reason under penalty of death. Transcriptions of any material within the library are expressly forbidden. Damage to library materials due to carelessness, including creases, folds, annotations, and such like, even accidental, will not be tolerated. Comestibles, libations, and liquids of any kind are forbidden. Visitors must check in with the present librarian before leaving the library. Failure to adhere to these rules result in immediate punishment determined by the present librarian. The Arbiters of Knowledge. We are caretakers of truth, the Arbiters of Knowledge, protectors of this repository of enlightenment that stretches back to our earliest writings, ancient as the sands. It is our sacred duty to protect our elven learnings and prevent the possible spread of it to those who cannot reconcile the wisdom found within these walls. The benighted masses cannot be trusted, cannot be expected to assimilate to these truths. They lack the intellectual fortitude to absorb and accept in the divisive nature of certain revelations. This suppression is not cruelty, nor is it an attempt to control. It is mercy, pure and simple. Never forget that, lies. In a realm of peace, there is only one crime: a disruption of that peace. Look about you. The land and its people is harmony and balance, as constant as the sun and the moon. Yet balance is precarious. Balance is easily lost. Cruelty, vanity, selfishness, these are all forces that would disrupt Vanaheim's harmony. These are forces of the Aesir. We are peaceful people. But peace cannot be endured without force to protect it. Dead on arrival. Warning to all those past the spit of this spit of land. The dead here do not die, rain or shine, in the heat of the day and the chill of the night. They follow their master's will. Leave now, whether you value your life or peace in your death. You do not want the prison of this magic. Necromancy haunts the dirt beneath your feet. Guards progress. Gala bushes, 4 planted, anticipating first berry harvest next winter. Favor petals, red. 6 planted. I currently wilting, may need to be moved or more. Sun exposure, favor petals, blue. 6 planted, all blooming favorably. Favor petals, yellow. 6 planted, 3 seem to be struggling. Will apply extra fertilizer with eggshells and crushed drake bone and hope for improvement. Fern pathway, filling in nicely. New fronds may need a trim next moon cycle. Topiary fencing, still in a search of new caretaker after previous one's sudden departure. Green bulb tree acquisition still in progress. Unsure if its roots will take outside their home realm. Call to arms to the venue of Vanaheim. My sister has abandoned us. Odin has turned our realm into a prison, and Freya has fled with the key. There is only one path forward, and it will not be a pleasant. We will take up arms. We will show the Aesir whose realm this is. We will go to war. Freya. Living masterpiece. There is truly no greater medium than a living, thriving tree. Every branch a canvas. This mighty elder and I work in tandem to achieve the impossible. My hand perhaps guides my ties and forms persuade pattern, but it is through the sacred giants prosperity does my work take shape. May my art always go over the heads of all those who try to look upon it. It is not for you. Satyr sacrifice. I fear devotion is waning amongst others. If we are to drive the Aesir from Vanaheim, there are things I must do without hesitation. Sacrifices must be made, and if I am the only practitioner with enough courage to make them, then so be it. In life do I scream, in death do I sing, in blood do I trust. I am the vengeance of these lands. Anything I can do. No one said this journey would be easy, yet I do find myself questioning how far I thought I'd go to finish this pilgrimage. On the way up, my foot slip causing me to stumble, my heart seized in my chest, and I felt I may perhaps perish at the hand of this cliff face. Thankfully, I was able to catch myself, but I suffered a nasty scrape on my knee. I believe blisters may also form on my hands as a result of the rough rocks. My back seems to also have been taken to complaining about the pack I have worn for the past 2 years. While I'm thinking about it, my head has also begun to ache. My point here is that if I can make this journey, I believe anyone can as well. The ceremony. The weather has favored us this day. The sun shines and its warm rays ripple through the leaves of the surrounding trees. Juniper leaves have been bound and burned. Their scent hangs joyfully in the air. Guests take their seats. The tinkling of celebratory laugh fills the hall. Anticipation for the ceremony builds as the hour draws near. The feast. The table is filled. Delicacies of both Vanir and Aesir origin have been prepared to symbolize the union of peoples. Succulent fruits to whet their appetites, served alongside the salted crisp skin of young hens. Gorge roasted and then sauced in honey, and breads baked in lava pits of Elgia will be present as the second course. An offering of Saermir has taken the center of the spread, although many Vanir will likely refuse to partake. Nuggets of tender meat for the little ones have been piled high. They will not go hungry for the night last, but certainly not least. Casks of meat have been rolled out in the great numbers to account for the thirst such festivities bring upon their guests. Tonight we dine as if Ragnarok will come to us in the morning. The auburn crown, Vanir's tradition to bound the plaits of our Freya's hair as final touches are made for the ceremony. Bloodberg blooms to adorn her locks and lupine oil to make them shine. Fronds bound around the circlet she wears breathe life in the middle. She is resplendent as the rains of summer morn. The blessings of the two. A blessing of the union of Frey and Odin on this day. Prosperity to the people of Vanaheim and Asgard. As the sun shines and the moon glows, so shall the realms remain steadfast in peace. Unforgiven, may we be forgiven. We thought the magic could be controlled, unleashed on our Aesir oppressors, but the dark magics do not discriminate. We have hurt those we love. We can feel our minds unraveling. If you read this when we still draw breath, end it for all our sakes. Satyr, you deserve nothing but pain. You hate what we become. Then you hate the fruits of your own labor. This realm grows filthier by the day, and to provide even the smallest resistance to your rule is a joy. If we lose ourselves, so be it. If the innocent suffer, it is nothing they are not used to by now. We are no longer your subjects. We are Satyr. Apology. I'm sorry. A bunch of time. Stupidity. They will call us mad for turning to the dark magics. We can live with this. If nothing else, the Aesir invasion has been good for one thing. It has proven the naivete of our beliefs. Naivety of our beliefs. We thought kindness and harmony with nature would save us. We thought love begets love. We deserve to be punished for such brazen stupidity. Everything ends. If you're reading this, we are dead. If you are reading this, you are an Aesir who finally caught up with us. If you are reading this, you have shown more curiosity than your other Aesir brethren. If you're reading this, know that we thought we failed. There will be others. That though we failed, there will be others. If you're reading this, know that all reigns end and all empires fall. If you're reading this, know that you and I will meet in Helheim one day, and I still have my magic and an unrelenting hatred for you and your kin. Golrob in the ashes of the forest. Casualties caused. Think of a large number and then double it. Method of imprisonment. Note slumber. Prison location Vanaheim. Did release now. These trolls devoured too many doors to count before I put them to sleep. I doubt they'd be in a better mood after getting slapped to the rousing relic. Imagine me stuck in the same position for any period of time. Brr. Imprisonment overseen by Alva Stonefoot Svartalheim. Hrazvagr, mighty Hrazvagr, Swallower of the Dead, Author of the Winds. It is not the first to claim the title of Hel, nor will she be the last. Since the time of the earliest Frost, 9 rulers have fulfilled the role, with her tenure having lasted the longest. But when will her dominion end, and will she be supplanted by force, or abandon her title willingly? The dead watch and wait. An accursed name. Woe to the great Princess Sigrun. Her heart is broken, and her mind may follow. She committed a sin for which there can be no redemption. She loved the wrong man, handsome of face and congenial of smile. He was perfect, except for his name, King Helgi. Sigrun's father, King Hogni, would never approve of such a marriage for one simple reason. This was the name of the old enemy. So strong was Hogni's hatred of Helgi that he would never allow that man into his home. But Sigrun loved him still, and so that she endeavored to convince her father that love could be stronger than hatred. She was mistaken. The Death of Helgi. Ash to ash, bones to bones. Where love cannot live, death takes hold. Here are the words of Prince Dagger. My spear drips righteous and red from the blood of that cad, King Helgi. My father in his wisdom denied him the hand of my sister, Princess Sigurdun, knowing his true and dark nature. Enraged by this slight, King Helgi gathered his forces and invaded our land, determined to claim his bride. His murderous soldiers dipped their swords into the hearts of all who opposed their unclean union. Mother, father, all my brothers hunted down and slaughtered, all because he was denied my fair sister. The only male of my line left standing, I impaled the villain Helgi on the spear. I did my duty and avenged my family. Love's end. There was never a love passionate and sordid as the one took root between fair Princess Sigurdun and the foreign King Helgi. Helgi begged for her hand, but Sigurdun's father, King Hogni, refused. And so Helgi raised a terrible army and descended upon her land, murdering all who opposed their union. King, queen, princess, all lay dead, except for Sigurdun's brave brother, Prince Dagger. Valiant Dagger took his spear and ran it through the mad King Helgi. When the princess discovered her lover dead by her brother's hand, rage blinded her, and she inflicted a curse upon him most foul. But as her vision returned and she saw her entire family dead, she realized her mistake. It was too late. The curse on her brother had taken hold. From the depths of grief came heartbreaking regret, and it overwhelmed her. In penance for her sin, she cast off her riches, title, and throne to dedicate her mind, body, and soul to the mighty Valkyries. A vow she did make to tuck her heart away, for her love was too dangerous. Bloduger Stein. Casualties caused 78 Dwarven, 3 other method of imprisonment, notes number, prison location, Midgard, date of release, never unless the witches of Anaheim come up with some potion that turns aggression into something cuddlier. Even if you come into the possession of rousing relic, don't use it unless you're itching for a fight. Imprisonment overseen by AS, as in one letter away from what you can kiss if you keep making me carve reports into these tablets. Rune reads, Winterman, kill Winterman. The Rune know the Winterman. Their attacks have increased of late. Perhaps this is the source of their agitation. Tyr's helmet. Win minds, not wars. Found etched into the helmet of statue of Tyr. Radical philosophy for a god of war. Tyr's spear. Wish for peace. Be ready for war. Found etched to the spear of the statue of Tyr. I agree with the sentiment. So let's see these. Iron Peace, not a golden war. Found etched into a bracelet from the statue of Tyr. Iron is far stronger than gold, yet at times peace feels as fragile as an egg. Traitor. Found outside a ruined temple in Vanaheim. Many of the realm's buildings came to ruin due to a natural disaster. Or the Ironheart. Freya's temple has fallen for different reasons. It appears that after she left Vanaheim, her own followers vandalized the very temple they once gifted her. Her people saw her marriage as a betrayal, a cowardly way to pass judgment on her actions. Prayer to Freya. May Freya never waver. Freya's people loved her deeply. They seem to have abandoned this village long ago, whether by choice or by force, it isn't clear, but I feel the words have soured her in her absence. Vanaheim Lullaby. I bless the rains of Vanaheim. Words from a traditional Vanaheim song. In Greece, the rain served as a reminder to worship the gods. Do the people of these lands worship the rain alongside their gods? Verdant, the veneer acknowledgement that the abundance of the realm, but they need to write it down is redundant. But the need to write it down is redundant. The beauty of Anaheim speaks for itself. City of Possibility, perhaps that is frustration over the statue of Vanaheim. The writer likely thought the location would be safe from Einherjar eyes. For their sake, I hope it was. Broken history, graffiti in dark elf territory next to a statue of their ancestors, the elves before the division of light and dark. The message being what exactly and for who. Either the elves have seen the statue and ignored it, or they are more concerned with the mastery of the light. Limitless, I'll give this to the light elves. The beauty of this temple is unmatched across the 9 realms. To think only 2 winters ago all of this was covered by hive and darkness. I'm sure there was beauty in it in its own way, but what can I say? White marble and gold trim is much more fetching. No sacrifice in vain. A corpse lay below this one. I wonder if the poor soul wrote it before expiring, or if it was written by the fiend who caused that expiration. Patience, found deep within the dark elf cave. They must use these outposts to launch raids on the temple, a useful spot to watch their enemy and plan their next assault. The forge ahead. It could be a light-hearted jape or another expression of the dwarves' resentment of the Odin's grip on Svartalheim. Is progress truly progress if it's made under an oppressor? The pit mine, Asgard's Svartalheim mining cooperative. I was not the one to coin this particular equivocation, but one has to respect the pure emotionless language that paints over the decades of systemic slaughter and oppression. Volta Vista. Don't know what to tell you. Not everything got a thrilling story behind it. Sometimes people just label things exactly what they are. Mind your breath. So don't breathe. Mind your breath could be referring to the polluted air of the bay or a warning against speaking ill of Odin, both equally likely in my opinion. The Squasher. Kaolin Squasher of Wretches killed a nest of 20 here. A legend or a boast, I wonder. I wish this Cadlin was around to enlighten us with her strategies. Prayer to Hrothgar, the wind from your wings chills my bones and fills my sails. The words appear despite the eagle of this realm in one moment that express devotion in the next. Valhalla rises again. The Ironheart who made the camp and was flame after Asgard fell were mistaken and are dead once more. Scrolls. How many of these? Okay. Dear Oversight, it is a shame and sadness that I must report I will be unable to meet your request by quota for this season. I am simply unable to forge armor and quality and quantity you requested. The fault for this, of course, is mine alone. I very much hope that my awareness of this fact might incline you to show some degree of leniency. As it stands, my output has measurably reduced since injuries I sustained after previously failing to meet your quota, and I would argue respectfully, as always, that further physical punishment would only further harm my productivity. I eagerly await your response. Shopping list, don't want to hear any more about your shortages. Aesir got exactly what we need. My work shouldn't have to suffer because they got on with the holding. Anyway, I need a barrel of oil, as many bundles of firewood can be spared, 5 ingots of pure Svartalheim seal, and oh yeah, goddamn food to goddamn eat. Passion, it is incredible what they take from you. I used to love mining, reaching the hardened earth and pulling out its fruits. Filth under my nails, the stains of the realms bloody smeared on my clothes. I'd take a bounty home and hammer it into something beautiful, something that was mine. Now I do it for you. For the Acer, now I do it because you'll beat me if I don't. The beatings I can handle, flesh heals, but you took my passion. Every day I wake up and I dread doing the very thing that once gave you first. So that's it for me. I'm going to fill a pack with the greatest works of metallurgy, and I'm going to walk into that godforsaken bay. Whatever awaits me in Helheim can't be worse than doing this every day. You can consider this my resignation. Climbing the ladder. Today was a good day, my love. The overseer complimented my output, nearly double that of a second most productive dwarf. I asked him if he might mention my name to the great family in Asgard. Perhaps they might need a personal blacksmith for warriors of Valhalla, and he said he would. Life is a stairway, and every day I haul myself up another step. If I could keep my head down and please the overseer, I am certain that this time next season we'll be living a warmer, easier life in the halls of Asgard. An examination of temporal significance. This evening I find myself musing on the scent of a book. When the paper is fresh, it carries the gentleness of the plants it came from, light floral and with a touch of sweetness. As the time passes, the pages age, they take on their brittle tan. A tear forms from any force stronger than the softest of touches. The scent hardens, crisp at the beginning, moving to the earthy musk left from the dust, desert air, and insect feasts. To these ephemera, nearly as impairment as ourselves, do we entrust our collective knowledge of our elven histories? Is this venture foolish? I concede the fleeting nature of existence, be it flesh or scroll, yet I would not trade the pleasures of putting ink to page for all the treasures of Alfheim the Council. The Bifrost Bridge. I know it's not uncommon to hear the voices of those we have lost in the light, so I decided to run the one little experiment, with the permission of the Temple's guardian, of course. I was missing my beloved Ashrikur something terrible, and thought perhaps if I could hear him one last time I'd feel more at peace. I packed up some of his favorite things, his blanket, the stuff that's a worm I enchanted to squeak when squeaked, and an old when squeezed, and an old drake bone with the teeth marks still imprinted, and set them down near the light to see if I could perhaps call to a soul. I sat quietly for some time. I called to him. It was very difficult to confirm, but after a while I swore I could hear the distinct sound of his paws on wood, gentle clicking from his nails, just the way they used to sound at home. They grew close. My heart beat faster in anticipation, but as soon as the sound started, they faded and I heard no more. Perhaps I'll try again one day, but for now I'll choose to believe he has found joy in the light and needs comforts of his old life no more. I'm glad for him. On Gjallarhorn. Gjallarhorn represents the only known exception to the principle of bilateral harmonization in realm travel. Instead of portal bridging in the space between two realms, it is capable of rendering simultaneous passage between any number of realms, provided the existing infrastructure is established and the horn is powered by the breath of a sufficiently powerful god. The Ashen God, it is Ashen God's fault. She told us, the witch. She said the Ashen God murdered Balder, and in so doing started Fimbulwinter. She said if the god dies, Fimbulwinter will end. No more night, no more cold, no more Ragnarok. We ran out of food weeks ago. No matter. Soon we will feast on god flesh. Receipt of purchase. It is with great pleasure I, Ingolf Yoni, hereby transfer ownership of most prized relic to the Alvis Stonefoot in exchange for for 1/4 equity of his fledgling forge, 79 pieces of hack silver, and 1 wheel of dry-aged gamel loast. May it awaken for him a trove of untold adventures and fortune. No returns or refunds accepted. The tree. Mother said that The other faces of the Nine Realms looked at the world as the individual leaves in a forest. They see people and nature, time and destiny as separate elements, but not us. The Jotnar know that these are all branches of the same tree, that you can't separate love from fate, from the flap of a bird's wing without harming the tree itself. Maybe that's why I saw no fear in her eyes when she talked about walking her path, when she talked about her impending death. Sometimes that comforts me, knowing her and Father's passings were just one branch in a great and ever-growing tree. Other times, I just miss them. The Aesir promised, you were shown kindness, you were shown patience, you were shown mercy. Peace was not sought, peace was offered, peace was rejected. Now you must live in the alternative. You have called us many things. You have hissed the word Aesir as a slur, spat in our paths, ignored our edicts. That ends today. Look at the ruins before you understand the truth. This was your doing, not ours. Prayers will vent. I can't do this. I mean, I have to do this. I write this because I can't say the words out loud. I write this because maybe if all goes well, it'll be a funny reminder of the man I once was. A man who is scared, who is in over his head, a man who cannot stop asking himself over and over again a single question: what would she do? I'd love to ask her, but she's gone, so I guess I have to answer on her behalf. She'd tell me to stop complaining. She'd tell me that I don't matter, that my fears and inadequacies are irrelevant. All that matters is making sure the people of Vanaheim can cast off the yoke of Aesir rule. She'd tell me I'm allowed to be scared, I'm allowed to be angry, not hungry. But above all, I have to be strong. The people of Anaheim need a leader, and for the foreseeable future, it looks like I'm the best they're going to get. Man, I wish she was here. Prayer. Chores. Thank you for tending to my home while I was away. I'm sure you'll bring a souvenir from Midgard, perhaps an icicle. Haha. Anyway, here's my daily routine. Please follow it as you are able. Rise with the sun, whisper to the plants. Any words are fine, though they prefer secrets. Feed pigs, mash berries into feed first, or the berries have gone sour. I have berry bush seedlings on the bed that can easily be matured to fruition with growth spell. Fetch water from the river, coax bark from the trees for firewood. Relax. That's all. I look forward to seeing you again upon my return. Abandon. I gave you everything, my faith, my love, offerings beyond measure, and you abandoned me, abandoned us, abandoned your home. Why? So you could gallivant across the realms with the one-eyed king. Did we sicken you so, your pathetic worshippers, that you would take your first opportunity to leave us and never return? I did not know true loneliness until now, nor did I know true rage. I would revenge myself upon you, but you are not here to receive my hate. And so instead, I, and as many as will join me, will go to that temple we built for you long ago, the monument to our gullibility and your selfishness, and we will do it what we can. We will do to it what we can only hope to one day do to you. Non-violence. This will end in blood. The only question that remains is which side are you going to spill more? The Aesir are not known for their mercy, just ask the giants. Yet our realm is split between those with half a brain and those who believe the passive inaction will somehow win the day. These Vanir would be kicked in the teeth and apologize for spilling blood on Einhar's boots. We have tried to reason with these. What other words is there? Cowards. They cannot be swayed. They will not help us muster a resisting force and numbers of any real meaning. And so what else can we do? What else but entreat the satyr magics to do what they will not? There are dangers to the old magics, yes, but can anyone say with confidence that they outweigh the dangers of doing nothing at all? Perhaps we will change. Perhaps our minds will fall to pieces. But if that is the price we pay for striking it back against the Aesir, it is one we pay gladly. Path of lies. Brothers, we are deceived. We have spent our lives walking the path for our every breath devoted to finding its end. We were told of the glory of the walk, of finding truth and where the road might take us, but there is no path to be found. The path does not lead to salvation. It does not lead to enlightenment. It leads to conquest, cruelty, blood. I am stepping off the path, and I hope you will join me, your brother Birgir. The blind guest. All of us have heard the blind guest whisper. He is in our ears in our weakest moments when we consider giving up walk entirely. He is on our minds when we think of our greatest reward awaiting us at the journey's end. He is a liar. He told us of a paradise at the end of the path, a shining place for us to take off our boots at last. I have seen many lands, many realms. I can tell you with some certainty no such paradise exists. The road does not lead to peace, it only leads to where all roads do, to other roads. More pain and pleasure and heartbreak and triumph and boredom and hunger and desperation. There is no destination, there is only the road, your brother Birger. The destination of the road leads not to paradise, then where does it lead? Why does the blind guest insist we walk this path? I have listened when he would have me close my ears. I have sought knowledge when he would have me remain ignorant. You have seen the giants, you have heard of their coming war with the gods of Asgard. You have heard how they hid themselves away, cut themselves off the world tree, never to be reached again. Do you not see it? It is their home we seek. Brothers, you must listen. The blind guest is the Allfather. The voice we followed is just another obfuscating moniker to be used by him and discarded when a purpose is fulfilled. It is he who wishes us to explore every facet of the world, not for our sake, but for his, that he may find a way into the home of giants and take it for himself. We are not pilgrims on a quest for salvation, we are scouts for an invasion. I will not be part of this. We must not be part of this. I beg you, my brothers, join me. Step off the All-Father's path, and we will forge a new one. Burger. Battle orders. Collect your troops and report to the Crucible in Muspelheim. I've set up a camp there, and you wait arrival of the Queen. Next steps. Asgard's destruction is not the end of your fight. Once you have gathered yourselves, move your troops to my location in Muspelheim's Crucible. We shall strike back against the traitorous Frigg, the ghost of Sparta she travels with. This goes to Sparta's trials and all who stand in our way. The Queen. Defend the prison, rally your forces, and make haste to the prison that has fallen in Niflheim. It now lies near the Raven Tree. Do not let the prisoners escape. The Queen. To the prison, make haste to the prison that has fallen in Niflheim, that Allfather may be gone, but we will carry out his will and ensure the prisoner never sees the light of the day. Again, the Queen. Na's journal. Must she always play the victim as if she has no hand in the shaping of her fate? In her eyes, her brother abandoned her because his selfishness, not because she was domineering and controlling. She was exiled from her own realm because her husband was evil, not because she was caught conspiring behind his back. Her son was unjustly killed because of a vengeful foreigner, not because she drove her own son to madness. And when I kill her, Freya will tell whomever will listen to her in hell that it was because her former handmaiden betrayed her, not because she deserved every single thing that's happened to her. Okay. It's all of that. The only thing... Oh, I still have trolls to kill. I'll have to do that when I get home from work. Yeah, I'll have to go to work soon, so I'll try to get through these. A story of relentless genius from the mind of Kvasir. Imagine, dear reader, if you were studying creatures of metal that screech through the air, that swim through the seas, that bound across the lands, but are brought to their knees by a warrior's hand, her origins hidden, her hair red as blood, finding places forbidden. Buried under the mud, but who is this young girl? Who is more than she seemeth? Who will rescue her people and slay these behemoths? That's Forbidden Horizon. Being a fictional poem of Gavesir. Okay. The armies assembled, 9 warriors strong, well rested and fed. For the war would be long. The orb in the air and branches in hand, a swing, a collision, the spectators stand. For 9 nights and 9 days they fight without rest, running, then waiting, to prove themselves best, until finally, mercifully, the army does rout one army triumphant, the other struck out. Baseball? Who remain part of the... Okay. Who remain part of the second. What is to live? What is to die? Is the only difference in the beholder's eye. When disease rots your body, when hate sours your brain, what separates the mad and the sane? For the bearded, cruel father and his surrogate daughter shall never know respite from a life full of slaughter. The evil will die along with the good, and the difference between them grows less understood. Last of Us, maybe? Stealing for unlikely friends, united in purpose to heroic end, thrown together by fate, ripped apart by disdain, old foes to aggravate, new allies to obtain, saving world after world, with friends at their back, 2 clever automatons, and last 2. Manuscript abruptly ends here at the bottom of the page, singed beyond recognition. That's Ratchet and Clank. Stick, rope, tar, black, skin, handprint, baby crying, shower, stink, death, beach, grubs, delicious, bomb, piss. Okay, that's Death Stranding. Visions after rest lay in the wait for explorers, crafted by imps and filled with music, joy, and horror. Among these fanciful realms lie endless creation and possibilities where the limits is one imagination. I don't remember what the game's called, but it's like, isn't it like a creating game like Dreams or something like that? A gentle boy and his brush found kinship along the walls. His creations, playful sprites, brought to joy one and all. The town once empty, now flushed with color and laughter. The boy hailed a hero, though merely a talented drafter. His mission: save his home, threatened by season disuse. His weapon: imagination, blues, reds, and purples, and chartreuse. I don't remember what the game's called. Look around you, O God, turn your head, guide your metal friend with care, or else it be dead. Rescue his friend, experience tension, immerse yourself in a new dimension. That's Astro. A master, a weaver of pulpy faith. The lure of adventure, it is a powerful thing, for this man has small beginnings. With his pluck, his wit, and his ancestors' ring, he aims to add to his winnings. To distant lands this man would travel, accompanied by partners and friends. And though their plans would oft unravel, they'd all make it through in the end. In ancient sites of mystery and wonder, priceless treasure lay there be to take. In the sticky certainty of awful blood, or everything you touch would end up breaking. If for you the desire for thrills still lingers, be there for anything and strengthen your fingers. Is it Drake? Like Uncharted? Maybe? Alone yet together, close yet apart. Our long scarves a tether, cooperation and art. Speak without a word, guess through the land. Glide like a bird, draw the names in their sand journey. The proud maple cries, a standoff makes 3 men fall, and the wind moves on. Tsushima. Sword from stone, fur from bone, sticks spouting fire. The blood wolf's ire. Armless knights, supernatural fights, hopes nearly gone. Be ready at dawn. The order? Kill and die, wound and sigh, bleed and perish, slash and cry. Inject and deflect, think and reflect. Fire, expire, murder, infect. The moon grows crimson, the mad townsfolk shout. The city a prison, carve your way out. Bloodborne? I think that's that symbol. And yeah, that makes sense. Horses of steel and oil and leather, brothers who fight and fall together. They rise from beneath, a new day dawns, the future has teeth and yesterday's gone. Day's gone? What time is it? Okay. A toy that the spirit intended to give to their son. I do hope the child was far from the valley when it was destroyed. Using using hourglass to plot travel by time seems to be an imprecise means of navigation. What if you walk faster than the person who has plotted your course? Unfortunately for the spirit, their directions led them to the desired destination where they met their ends. Stein, a stein that could hold ale once again. Now that is whole, I have collected cups before those paid to the dwarves. Maybe this one will fetch a decent price. Scroll containing a message regarding Thorin and the Aesir. The spirit's commander waited for the words that never came. Perhaps things would have been different here if the scroll had reached its destination. A brooch that the spirit was planning to use in their proposal marriage to their partner. It never reached its intended recipient. I wonder what became of their beloved. Tributes to Freyr. This charm is meant to absorb nightmares. The principle behind its magic is not a local one, but a theory picked up by Tyr from the Western lands. That Tyr spelled wrong. I mean, it might be Odin. Then the premise is a simple one: nightmares seek us out in the dark, hoping to crawl into our minds and corrupt them from within. Charms such as this are meant to distract and trap the nightmares, tangling them up in charms thread until the sunrise. It's like a dream catcher. And can right the devious bastards. Horn, not to be confused with Gjallarhorn, this piece symbolizes peace, or at least Freyr's hopes for peace. It was said amongst the more easily excitable vows that one day Freyr would blow the horn of quiet, and so in doing so, end the war between the elves. Just wishful thinking, I'm afraid. No prophecy ever spoke of such a horn. As far as I can tell, no items such exist, but that didn't stop the elves from hoping. Can't fault them for that. A token of depicting Freyr's likeness, crafted by and for those elves who supported the young god in his attempts to find peace. At the height of Freyr's popularity, these tokens adorned more elvish homes than they did not. They represented that one thing that is available in small doses, outright deadly and large ones. Hope. Harp, a miniature harp, unplayable of course, likely meant to reflect Freyr's musical skill. It said that with the stringed instrument in his hand and a song in his lips, there was nothing he couldn't accomplish. No virgin too chaste, no warrior too wrathful. I'd like to imagine Freyr was smart enough not to resort to song and dance when it came to brokering peace between the elves. That's what I'd like to imagine anyway. Pipe, a ceremonial pipe, given Freyr's temperament, one can imagine that he saw a great deal of use. Not that I blame him. It said that some of Alfheim's flora was particularly well suited for recreation. Just one more thing Fimbulwinter took from the realm, I suppose. A shame, too. I was rather interested in learning whether or not my current bodily situation would allow me to reap any hallucinogenic benefits from Alfheim's herbs. Bracelet, a rather lovely piece of jewelry crafted by one of Freyr's elf supporters. It seemed to be a bracelet hand formed to fit Freyr's wrist, which introduced the question: why was it discarded? Was Freyr so inundated with gifts and jewelry that he simply couldn't find a place for it, or did he perhaps wear it for a time only to cast it off, possibly in anger or shame, or some combination of the two, once he sped back to Vanheim to stop Freya's wedding? I did that, okay. Honir's crest. The story of Honir is not particularly happy when you see when the relations between Aesir and the Vanir were in a relatively healthy place. A cultural exchange would suggest the Vanir would send one of their own to Asgard, and the Aesir would do the same for Vanheim. The Vanir sent kind young bladesman named Sturla to live in Asgard. The Aesir sent Honir, a kind, innocent, and sweet, but dumb as the pile of stones he was. After a few days, and realizing that Honir required constant care in order to prevent him from accidentally hurting himself, it became clear to the Vanir that Odin only sent Odin's clear disgust for the boy when they believed themselves out of earshot. All this time, Onir believed that Odin would one day come back from, that he was merely on a pleasant vacation with the Allfather's magical friends. They found his body next morning, yet under their victims, Odin's cruelty. Odin's crest. When Odin married the goddess Freya, the people of Vanheim, some of the more optimistic ones, anyway, wished to welcome the Allfather into their culture. In gesture of tragically misplaced hospitality, they carved the Allfather a family crest of his very own, a symbol of trust. He thanked them for the gift, then he tossed it away once he was out of view. It would not be the first time he betrayed Vanir's trust. Skirnir's crest, though he comes from one of Vanheim's old Sven, Skirnir was never considered himself a Vanir. Vanir never considered himself well much of anything, to be told. Skirnir was loyal to no one but Skirnir, and he was a particularly infuriating brand of intellectual who forever seeks to place himself above others by refusing to ever be pinned down on any specific philosophy. If there were an issue with two sides, Skirnir would always find to stand right in the middle and declare himself superior to all. If there were a fence separating two pastures, he'd find a way to balance directly on its edge. When Odin visited his wrath upon Vanheim, Skirnir learned the consequences of neutrality, and neither side could be sure of where his loyalties lies, and so neither side could trust him. For the Ironheart, that meant they'd chop his head off at the first available opportunity, which, given that the Vanir refused to provide him with shelter, came considerably sooner than Skirnir expected. Freya's crest, a crest depicting the family sigil of Freya and Freyr, a Njord and Skaldi, a family that used to exemplify everything noble and wise about the Vanir, and Vanaheim itself. Then Odin fucked it all up, didn't he? Married Freya, then trapped her on Midgard, tricked those who loved her into believing she abandoned them, and then Bastard waged slow, brutal war on the same people he'd sworn to do right by. Knowing that, it's perhaps unsurprising that this crest is defaced. When many of the Vanir think Freya, they think only of pain. One hopes we could change all that. Kvasir's crest, the legendary Lush, Akavasir, the legendary Lush. The stories call him wise beyond words, the inventor of poetry. They say when he died, his friends mixed his blood with honey to create the mead of poetry, said to imbue anyone who imbibed it with the power of lyrical wisdom. All bollocks, of course. Kvasir was great for one thing and one thing only, throwing back drinks. Not to disparage him in the slightest, most of us can only hope to be as good at anything as Kvasir was holding his alcohol, but his poetry often took the form of progressively more imaginative forms of profanity, and those who drank his blood only felt inspired because the Sot's fluids were at least 50% booze by the time he finally keeled over. Really funny bloke, though, knew his way around a double entendre. Hyley's crest, there's one big problem with living in peaceful, advanced society that sustains itself for centuries. When war eventually comes, there's a good chance you won't have any bloody idea what to do. Some of the Vanir families wanted to fight back against others, believed that they could appeal to his better nature. The Hylo family split down the middle. Half of them took up arms, half refused to spill blood on the virgin soil of Vanaheim. A fissure formed between the pacifists and the militants, a fissure that might well have healed given enough time, but they have never got the chance. Unfortunately, the Aesir killed them all within a few weeks of the war, quickly and indiscriminately. Whether they died with a quill or a sword in their hands, they all died just the same. How much time do I have left? A few minutes, okay. Hreidmir's Bastard. Hardmire is known for two things. Firstly, he was one of the great armorers of Svartalheim. Secondly, his sons are all dragons. That's right, Hardmire, father of the dragons, you now know as Rain, Fafnir, and Oder. Wasn't a terribly good father by any measure, unless you directly rates one paternal ability to the amount of fire their sons can breathe anyway. But damn if you could make a good set of plate mail. Odin wanted him to design the Ironheart armor, and Hreidmire obliged, of course, I mean built a fatal flaw into the armor that was caused the breastplates to snap like stale bread from the slightest blow. About a dozen Ironheart died before the Allfather realized what had happened. They caught Hreidmar trying to escape through a realm travel gate. You can imagine what happened next. Gripe's firebomb. I have many regrets considering this time I spent in Fartheim, but one of those I think one is Gripe the most. Gripe was a fantastically angry dwarven scribe for furious treatises against Odin's final financial imperialism might as well have spurred the dwarves to outright rebellion, and had she continued to distribute them. As a wielder of words, she has at least my equal, if not superior, and her passion and fury commanded the respect of anyone who read her writings. When she took firebomb in her hand and burned Aesir camps to ash, others followed her. Unfortunately, the downside of having clear and loud voices that you're very, very easy to find. The Ironheart could handle propaganda, arson less so. They found her, and she and all known copies of her writings disappeared. I'd always wished to meet her. I still think of her often. I'd like to think she'd be friends if she knew me as I am now. Barry's grenade. Barry, the dwarf, spent his entire life building the great mead hall known as Lear. Brick by brick, stone by stone, he built it as wide and tall as he could so that songs of merriment of dwarves could echo within its walls until the end of time. He was only a few days' work from completing when Ironheart arrived. They demanded Lear's used as a temporary barracks. That same night, Barry the dwarf hurled stone grenades at cornerstones of his life's work, collapsed the entire bloody thing upon himself in a matter of hours. Lofenhein's whetstone. There's nothing to be said for creeping around at night, slitting throats of your enemies. It's quiet, it's effective, and it's fear-inducing. There's many ways to rebel, but that was the method of Lofenheim chose. It worked for quite a while, too. The Ironheart never believed that the adorable tavern waitress who served them with a twinkle in her eye and a smile on her face, on her lips, could also be the butchering them at nightfall. But butcher them she did, got 11 of them before she was finally caught, and even when they executed her, they said she had the same twinkle in her eye, the same smile on her lips. Althoff's statue. I recall Althoff the thief's antics. He understood what one of the most important rules of resistance. You don't always need to win major battles. You just need to inconvenience your invaders. Before Svartalheim voluntarily bent the knee to Asgard, Odin sent a detachment of Ironheart as a general show of force. There wasn't a day that went by where I didn't hear about missing bags of grain or pilfered armor, or in this case, treasured valuables stolen away before they could be returned to Asgard. Unlike most thieves I've known, he stole not for the thrill of the payoff, but simply to irritate the Ironheart. And it worked until they laid a trap for him, caught him, and hanged him with a length of rope he'd been attempted to steal. Durin stone statues. Durin the generous built the world mill. Over the course of decades, he foresaw a future in Svartalheim was as lush and verdant as the most overgrown fields of Vanaheim, and the world mill was the first step towards the future. He'd sell fertile, high-quality soil to the other dwarves and pour all the proceedings into keeping the world mill running. When Odin heard of this miraculous machine, and the Independents might one day grant Svartalheim, he offered Durin gold beyond measure to destroy it. Durin refused. Odin wanted to bring the whole structure down, of course, but I had convinced him to study his hand. Instead, Asgard simply made their own world mill. We sold our own soil to the dwarves at prices Durin couldn't possibly match. He couldn't afford the upkeep on his miraculous machine, and so it fell into disrepair. Once Durin's world mill broke, Odin destroyed Asgard as well. Durin took his own life shortly thereafter, and that is the story of Svartalheim almost gained independence. One last one. Okay. Ankh. A symbol representing the concept of life comes from the land I've longed to visit. The civilization from which this artifact originated is said to be both ancient and technologically advanced. They worship half-human, half-animal gods who, from what I've heard, rule with wisdom and humility. That said, one should never trust gossip, especially not when it comes to the gods. Egypt. Kyla is from the east, not from the first ones I've seen either. The uneducated might assume the Kyla to be a weapon. They'd be wrong. The slightly less educated probably believe the Kylas is used to ritualistic human sacrifice. They'd also be wrong. In reality, the Kylas uses rituals, yes, but never to do with bloody sacrifice. Instead, the Kyla represents stability and strength. You might stab a bowl of grain with in order to ground yourself to the space you occupy. Despite its appearance, the Kyla isn't a weapon of bloodthirsty, but a tool of the holy. It can also imprison demons. I think it's Mayan. John Baya. I don't know all these. John Baya, part of weapons, part status symbol. This dagger from the east is said to be so deadly that it can only ever be drawn from the sheath in case of extreme conflict. Should it bear wield the John Baya flippantly, they risk bringing considerable shame on themselves. Oh, it's like, I think that's like Persian. Maya, well, it's Mayan. A sculpture from the Southern Empire. Now that is a civilization I would like to visit. If Tyr's writings are to be believed, the Southern gods are said to possess unparalleled wisdom and generosity. The ruler of the heavens apparently saw fit to gift humanity the advances like writing, farming, the calendar, and sciences. Imagine that, a deity who wishes to share knowledge rather than hoard it. Equally, I wouldn't wish to ever draw the ire of such a pantheon. I've heard their god of death takes great pleasure in torturing expired souls with fire and water. Though I can no longer feel pain, I imagine he'd find a way to make my current situation rather unpleasant. Furt, for the first time, this is like an African one, for the first time, and feel free to mark this down, as it is unlikely to happen. I have at a loss. I've simply never seen anything that's clear carved from stone, but I don't recognize the craftsmanship. It's old, that much is clear, but I can't even begin to fathom from whence it came. For why? When I was in Uganda, I saw a lot of these. Well, that's only partially true. Given the statuette's measurements, shall we say, I suspect this may be a fertility idol of some sort. The lyre, Greek. A stringed instrument, a lyre, to be precise. Kratos says he knows how to play it, but refuses to do so, which means he's either lying, possibly, or determined to deprive me of a good time, also possible. Though come to think of it, this is probably one of the few surviving artifacts from his homeland. Plucking the lyre's strings might well take his mind back to the place. That may well be the journey he's not ready to go on yet. Okay, so that's everything. Okay. Oh, I gotta crap that. So I'll have a couple minutes to do it, so I'll go to Midgard because that's the easiest one. It's right here. Come on. And I gotta find the trolls, but I'll do that at another time.
Ragnarok armor's on the house. We'll call it a commemorative piece.
Oh, I can't yet because I gotta find the trolls.
Window shopper.
Okay, that's that. How's it gonna work? Maybe I'll be able to finish it when I didn't mean to do that. I'll be able to finish it when I get back. Maybe, I don't know. Bye!